toka Jaramogi na Kenyatta, wanauliza kama Kenya kuko sawa. Nikawajibu Kenya tuko na disaster, watoto wetu wanazidi kuzikana. Na Tomboya ameshika tama, alituacha kama angali kijana. Je, angekuwa mambo yangekuwa sawa? Ndivyo walivyopanga Maulana. Deni mulizoacha bado tunalipa, na tumekopa zingine China. Tukajenga reli pia barabara, zilizobaki watu wakasanya. So tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Sikio la kufa halisikii dawa. Tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie bane, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta. Tusake zetu tungali vijana. Waumini kwa matrina, pasi kwa bima, kushoto fungu la 10 sadaka kulia. Ndio maana mbele ya kanisa mheshimiwa anakula sakramenti kabla ya raia. Siku za mwisho zimeshawadia, na revelation inatuambia hii generation inachoma picha. Ni generation yetu, so tujiangalie. Tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Sikio la kufa halisikii dawa. Tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie. Tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta. Tusake zetu tungali vijana. Mishuki alisema tufungeni mikanda. Ona leo twavuna tulichopanda. Kura zetu zilitugawanya, makabila na pesa pia tulimanga. So when you make your bed, usingizi gani tumelala? Tutajua tujui, Vision 2030 tabaki ni story. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Sikio la kufa halisikii dawa. Tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta. Tusake zetu tungali vijana. Dosi aliniambianga freedom never comes for free. We vote tribe ama real cash, ask Boni. Tuna Roma lia mwezi itajesu plus dogi. Wal mzima Twitter keotindo fast body. Ban pictures in Africa, black coffee and none. I'm richer than my neighbor but we're both in a slum. If the rich always win, why should the popular run? Unless democracy ni wants use them only for fun. Na hii weekend tuko church tunauza sura kabisa. Post ya haga wenda poa sana na caption ya scripture. Kayo ndo gospel pitisha bagi ya sadaka kwa club, yeah. Traffic madragu baindai, traffic mandai zina drag. Kwa maya mwizi amemake stories za shamba amegrab. Kono inahonga imevaa bracelet ya colors za flag, yeah.
Alright, tujiangalie tindila. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us for Mondays. And the date is tarehe leo ni ngapi? Tarehe ni tarehe 12 mwezi wa 10 2020, 12th October 2020. It's a pleasure to have you. Wala ambao wameingia, asante sana. Those guys have joined us. It's a pleasure to have you this Monday morning. I hope you had a very great weekend. Ni vizuri kuona Taklas, naona mlalangi bwana mapema hii msharauka. Alright, naona kuna jamaa hapa anaitwa nani? Kuna Ole Sofia Chirchir Vincent anasema good morning from Lamu County. Thank you so much. William Mwangi anasema morning team utawala tuko ndani. Hiyo ni member number 3 Millicent Tirop. So good morning 4 Colin Chepchum anasema good morning 5 Brian Karaoke morning 6 Jimolela 7 Godwin Rapchamo 8 Titus Chumba 9 Teki Waithuria 10 Salim Juma anasema good morning 11 my good brother all the way from America Mark Chirchir anasema good morning fam, good morning to you 12 Tony Kimlaga, thank you so much, good morning. Na member number 13 Jumba Ian Kiptop and I'm watching from Australia. Jamaa the land down under. Thank you so much guys for always joining in. Millicent Tirop anasema Sydney Australia tukolok. Thank you so much. Majamaa Australia, asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki. Ronald Kiblagan Morogo anasema morning tackle. Good morning to you. Felix Koech anasema good morning. Big morning tuned in from Doni. Doni ni wapi baba? James Mungai anasema morning and tuned in from CBD. Watu wa CBD. Senior citizen. Senior citizen wanaina alienda wapi? Senior citizen wanaina ulienda wapi? Mwita Mwangi anasema ndani, thank you. Carlos Igay Senior anasema watching from Eldoret, thank you so much. George Kiprom anasema morning tuned in for Machakos. Starboy anasema yuko ndani. Ben Tabi anasema from Nakuru. Caroline Chepchumba anasema good morning from Utawala, thank you. Manu Kamara anasema Turkana is tuned airtime 072. Alright, utawapea kesho ukuwe number the top 10. We are going to give airtime tomorrow. Alfatan Gibla anasema watching from Nandi County, thank you. Ben Kipson tuned in from Kisumu. Ndalu Twini anasema tuned in. Sandra Belian anasema good and Morgan. Good morning to you. Eric Wanyo anasema good morning team, I'm watching live from Nairobi Westland. Salamu ziende watoto wangu Mary, Bethany na Marta. Mary, Bethany na Marta mnasalimiwa na daddy. Alright. Adizari kwa nyonyi, thank you so much. Betty NK anasema watching from Thika, Kiambu County. Asante sana. Dennis Kiro anasema tuned in from Melbourne, Australia, always tackling issues as they are. Thank you so much. Watu Australia. Naona pia Dennis Kiro mpata badge yako hapo ya top fan. Raymond Komen anasema tuned in and say hello to my old school classmate. Tayari shapata salamu. Jerotich. MC Yogo Yogo anasema good morning from Eldoret Sisibo live. Thank you so much MC Yogo Yogo. Veronica Sanga anasema Veronica good morning to class, asante. Tindra, that is Tundra triple square. Asema good morning watching from Tunyai, thank you. Alva Alan asema good morning from Molo na Kurikondi, thank you. Sige Kanisha kijana asema good morning. Sandra Belian Mamusha Pams Cheps Kozge Masi Kamau na Zep Jep kwa Lucia asema good morning honorable class. Unasema waje kuita watu heshimiwa. Gibet Arab Cherumba asema good morning from Embakasi. Nicodemus Keti asema following. Titus Komora asema good morning loud and clear from Kitale. Isaac Ekitud anasema tuned in from Eldoret. Vincent Raimoy anasema good morning. Kevin Kimlaka Tsauri anasema good morning from Wasingishu County, thank you. Julius Were anasema Busia Kenya Wakolot. Kemba Kipkwet anasema watching from Iben, thank you. Kipkos Gay Chemist Isaac anasema good morning from Kasarani. Kiprona Biwot anasema morning following from Matunda regards to Jerotich Seii. Tua Ruby anasema tuned in. Kipkwet Cheruiyot anasema good morning. Salah Abdis Hek anasema good morning from Machakos. Henry Kimeli Kapkia anasema tuned in. Viva Jerotich Seii. Elias anasema streaming live from Atlanta kwa Ber to Sai. Asante sana watu wa Atlanta, thank you so much. Maru asema this thing is speaking great stuff. Kitale massive. Asante sana watu wa Kitale. Andrew Kamolo all the way from Uganda, love you guys. Napenda sana Sesebo. Wilson Koech jamaa wangu wa Kesesa anasema watching. So asante sana Wilson Koech, thank you. Wale kazi ulifanyia Jude, we really appreciate what you guys did for Jude and the sacrifice that you made. We really appreciate that. Jude ali safiri salama. Though niliona kuna mahali mlipigana makonde kidogo na nyinyi mmeanza tabia mbaya. Hiyo si tabia ya watu wa Rift Valley. Maneno ya kupigana kwa mazishi mwachana na hiyo, ni pumbavu kabisa. Taanza kuwapiga makofi. Martin Jinga sema good morning watching live from Birmingham, Alabama, USA. Ken Kiba sema morning tuned in from Sondu, Kericho ya Torres Bungoma County. Linda kwa sema good morning from Eldoret, Linda. Yes, asante sana. Bidia Tanu sema morning tuned in from Kapsabenande. Norris Senior sema morning Kisumu Lok. Kipchumba sema good morning Gerald tuned in from Moibenda. Asante sana. Vince Kip sema getting you loud and clear from Kilimani area, Nairobi. Chamge Gerald. Chamge bana. Anthony Kangwa sema watching live from Eldoret. Vincent Rally Moy tuned in from Tokyo, Japan. Watu watoke jamani, takuja kuendelea na shout out. Naona mmefika kweli. Na pia tuliwaambia kwamba kuna section ambayo tunaita tujengane. You guys have been building us. You've built us, you've given us a platform that you're parenting from. You've been our fans. I see a number of you guys already have top fans. Tunashukuru sana kwa vile nyinyi mmetujenga. And we want to give back. Kama kuna biashara ambayo unaifanya, tuko na section ambayo inaitwa tujengane. Kama kuna biashara unafanya, tafadhali tuambie biashara gani unafanya, include a link either to your website or to your page. Tuambie nini unafanya and also your contact so that we can give your business a shout out. Hilary Kosgei, special shout outs to Hilary Kosgei. Hilary Kosgei ni jamaa anafanya construction. Kama unataka kazi yote ya construction, if you want to anything unambao unafanyiwa construction, tafuta jamaa anaitwa Hilary Kosgei. Thank you so much Hilary Kosgei. Na pia alisema kesho atawachapia na airtime. So tomorrow the first 10 will win airtime courtesy of Hilary Kosgei. Hilary Kosgei kesho airtime ni kwake. Alright, kabla sijaenda sana acha nisukume kwa Lucia tuambie kwa kitu. Lucia pari yako.
Seii ndio Gerald mama msalimia. Hizi salamu zote na hata hakuna moja ya Gerald BITOK.
Uko na maneno Lucia.
Yako lakini.
Salama sana pari yako.
Unajua leo 2/3 gender rule ina apply hapa.
You guys have finished me. I can feel I'm already feeling marooned.
Leo ni wewe tutatako lukicheza.
And that's why I told you. You see the gender initiative is a flip. You know, today we are talking about women, tomorrow it will be about men.
Yes.
So when you are doing it, let's look at it in an affirmative point of view, not unavaa marinda. As sisi wote tunavaa longi hata siku. You know, it should not be about the gender, it should be about the affirmative, because the affirmative changes every other time.
Yeah.
But anyway, niliona juzi last week on Saturday, mlikuwa na the day of the girl child. Tuambie mlifanyia yako nini huko?
tulikuweko tunaendesa hii injili kuwa cultural, tanafaa kuwa protected. I was actually surprised that in some communities there's still FGM going on. Like ladies are forced to undergo through the cut. You can imagine going through the pain of labor and being genitally mutilated at the same time. It's just almost unbelievable. So we've made progress, but we still have a long way to go to demystify some of these myths and harmful cultural practices. So on that note, wacha tuombe kwanza. Ndio tuanze show. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you this morning for the gift of life. We say that you are Abba Father. Jehovah, we ask you to bless us. We ask you to fill our mouths with your knowledge, King of glory, that everything we speak here might be of benefit to us and to our viewers. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray.
Amen. Amen. Asante sana. By the way, it's 5 years since Jehovah Wanyonyi went to be with himself. 5 years since Jehovah went to be with himself. So that maneno. Ni waluya mtatuonyesha maneno.
Hapo
Even decide your girl.
Iko maneno kitoko. Lakini unachua mimi nimeokoka, Yesu ni mwokozi wa maisha yangu. So hapo kwa Jehovah Wanyonyi.
Auko.
Sikoko hapo.
Asante sana. Thank you. Leo tuko na mgeni. Hilo zamanga mgeni bomba. She's a vibrand active. She calls herself an active citizen, and that's quite interesting coinage, because people are used to activist, this and that, and activist has given almost a feeling of aggression. You know, when someone is active citizen, there's someone who's playing a video. It's mad. Yeah. So someone is playing on live stream, and then your earphones moja imekanyaga nje. Just turn it. Flip it. Yeah. Oh,
no wonder I thought there was something wrong with my
that is the one. Hiyo ndio inaleta shida. Usijaribu kwa wazee wako nyumbani. Kama uko Nairobi.
Kwa uzee, I said I can only hear,
on one side.
Lakini nisiseme kitu.
All right, karibu sana Jerotich. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for inviting me to be with you this morning.
And we are very happy about what you're doing.
Thank you.
So he's an active citizen.
I'm an active citizen. Yes.
So where did you get that thing, active citizen?
Actually, it's a friend of mine, Marilyn Kamuro. I heard her use it a couple of years ago, and I said, I like that. I like that. You're a citizen and you're active. You could call yourself an activist. You could call yourself a social justice advocate. You could do all kinds of things, but I like active citizen. So I use it, and that's how I encompass all my public work, all my public advocacy work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So uliamua kuzima stima?
Yeah.
Uliendaje na mambo ya stima ya switch off?
No, I'm not zimaing stima. I'm zimaing Macatel.
Yeah, switch off KPLC.
Yes. In fact, we want power. We want electricity. That's the issue. And with switch off KPLC, we've said enough of the robbery of Wakenya who pay exorbitant high electricity bills month in, month out. Whether you're prepaid or postpaid, there's always
we're all suffering.
Yes, yes.
So why are you interested with power?
Look, I'm interested in all things basic services and public services. But towards the end of 2017, December, I started noticing, along with several other Kenyans, active citizens, I would call them, that there was a problem with our electricity bills. You receive 2 bills in a month. Sijui estimates 001 month, the next month 29,000, then 6,000. So we found out in January of 2018 that there was a lawyer who was also suffering himself and was going to go to court on this matter. And we approached him and said, can we all team up together, get bills, find people, and we come together and say, we are all suffering, and we have said no. And at that moment, Ministry of Energy had also said they needed to recover 10.1 billion shillings from Kenya. Wow. There was drought, all those different things, and so we had to pay backdated fuel charges.
So this is tunaletanga ukame Kenya.
And then when we went to court, we received court orders saying do not proceed to collect this 10.1 billion from electricity consumers until this matter is heard in court. Do you know they collected the 10.1 billion and then some?
They still went ahead and did that.
They went ahead, they disobeyed court orders. So when we say switch off KPLC, we're saying enough of the harassment, misuse, abuse, and theft of our monies as Wakenya. And if the energy cartels are the ones who are behind our increasing cost of electricity to Azime, Get them out.
So kazi wewe ni kuzima cartel, si kuzima stima.
Yeah, kuzima cartel. Cartels have to go. And cartels sit in KPLC, they sit in EPRA, which is a regulatory authority, they sit in Ministry of Energy, they sit in the IPPs themselves, those independent power producers. They also sit with the broad generators, Kina Kengen, Kina Geothermal. So across the board in the energy sector, you have cartels sitting in there, fishing money, extorting, stealing, money laundering, all kinds of things. But as consumers, you, Gerald, Lucia, myself, we are face to face with KPLC every month because they are the ones who take our money. So when we say switch off KPLC, we are talking about the entire energy sector group of cartels, but we refer to KPLC because they are the ones we deal with every month.
Yes, they are the ones we pay.
And KPLC stole 150 billion shillings from itself.
Hiya.
One of the things we are saying,
Pocketing yourself.
yeah, they pickpocketed themselves badly, from junior to medium, middle level to senior to everywhere they have stolen. But when we say in switch off KPLC, we want a forensic audit. We want to know what's going on there. Wanakata. We have petitions running in court. We want justice for electricity consumers. Lucia, see, you had a problem the other week.
Oh my God, Aki, I'm telling you, it was horrible. And people, she's among the people who are very vocal with my...
At least just say, oh my God. You tried today.
Kwa sababu ya hiyo story, oh my God. Kenya Power wako na madharau sana. And Jero here really helped me because kama si hiyo kelele alipiga, mimi sahi bado ningekuwa nakatiwa stima na sina bili ya stima. And they had done this for 18 months. 1.5 years, Gerald. Nikisumbuana nao, nikireport kila branch yenye wako nayo existing in this Nairobi na bado nazungushwa like a kid. It was just... I actually lost my cool on that day and I was calling her and I was crying because I was meant to go see someone at Stima House. Na security wamenifungia. You can imagine watchman amekukataza from getting a service that you pay for and you deserve.
That's weird. That's quite sad. You know, on the same note, it's why do we romanticize thieves? Like these are thieves. Cartel is a very beautiful word. It doesn't befit them. When you say cartel, it sounds good on the mouth. We need to start calling them thieves.
You
know, for there we romanticize crooks. Yeah. You know, we should call them crooks and thieves anyway. For our matter, anyway. All right. So niliona stima pia kitambo nilikuwa naonanga 500 shillings used to give you 32 units. Today it's 22 units.
Or it could be 12 units or 5 units or 40 units. You never know how they are calculating it. There are so many algorithms in play that people will constantly tag me on Twitter, for example, and say, I put 1,000 bob, I got 24 units. Somebody else, 1,000, they got 54. And then you have these other levies that appear on your bill. So you pay for electricity, your price per kilowatt hour. And your price per kilowatt hour will depend on whether you're consuming more than 100 kilowatt hours per month or less. And then once they have determined that, then you have all these other levies you have to pay. Sijui fuel, sijui forex, sijui warmer, sijui what. By the time you're done with all of that, you also pay VAT on top of everything. Then you get your bill. So that 1,000 bob there, a good 40% of it has nothing to do with your stima. Maybe even 50%. So it doesn't earn you or give you the power that you need. And think about it this way. How will this country ever industrialize? Think of all the SMEs. Think of all the people who are starting their small businesses. So you hear about Akina Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all these guys who started their businesses in their garages. So now imagine somebody has a two-room somewhere and they want to start an enterprise and they cannot afford electricity. If our big industries, so moving from small, our big industries cannot afford electricity, we will be forever importing things like widgets from China, sijui where. We do not manufacture stuff here because the cost of electricity is too high. And who bears the brunt? There was a mama who lost 5 liters of breast milk.
Wow.
She had frozen it and then KPLC kicked in. They tried to preserve it and breast milk is very sensitive. And after a day or 2 or 3, she lost it all. And maybe she was about to go back to work and she had now stashed her breast milk so that her baby can be fed. And so wherever you look, people are bearing the brunt, whether it is mothers, whether it is fathers, whether it is children who cannot do homework. Even now, those who are doing remote learning in these days of COVID, as soon as your power goes, even if you were fortunate internet enough to have Wi-Fi in your house, you're done for. So it is a huge problem across the board. And let me tell you, Gerald, if you earn $1 million shillings a month, and very few people do, and 10% of your 1 million bob goes to electricity, do you want that? No. If you earn 50,000 shillings a month, do you want 5,000 bob to go to electricity? No. Let me tell you, in 1 year, my bill, I calculated all my bills, that 2017 into 2018, 276,000 shillings in electricity bills that I was given.
Goes to the dimmer.
To Sitima. With which money? See, then you have to become a thief. Then you have to become a thief so that you can...
Don't live a steamer.
And so when you see people, when you want to banga steamer, they do funny connections, you look at them and you say, at this point in time, you can even understand why people are even rigging it, because they can't afford their electricity anymore. Of course, it's also illegal, and they're also thieves, and they must also stop. But it is incredible.
Right.
And it's also dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
But then people need to survive, and they're really struggling to survive. I know at my hood, there's this guy who sells fries. So Chipo, anaitwa Musioka, very nice gentleman, and he works really, really hard. And on a day when stima imezimwa, when they tell you there is a scheduled maintenance, you don't have electricity for almost 8 hours. He told me on such a day he makes a loss of up to 25,000.
Oh my God.
Losses.
Oh my
because
God.
waru zenye zimechongwa zitaka kwa maji zitaharibika, he has to throw them away. Haezi kupika nazo anymore. And you see, even if they give you a notice, utaambia supplier wako, so kesho usiniletee waru kwa sababu Kenya Power wamesema watazima stima.
You already have a contract.
Yeah.
You have a contract with the supplier.
You cannot breach it.
Yeah.
But you see, the problem here is we have contracts with Kenya Power, and Kenya Power is always breaching the contract, and there's no consequence for Kenya Power.
There are no consequences whatsoever. This is impunity that thieves enjoy in this country. Whatever you do, it's fine. You'll come back. Even these scheduled maintenances. How many scheduled maintenances can you have? And every time there's a storm, power goes. Every time there's something, power goes. And then your transformers are popping all over the place like popcorn. There is the mother and her 3-month-old baby electrocuted to death in Kwale County. Because there was a
because
live
of bad,
wire.
because
This
of
dangerous
technical
service.
issues.
Not technical issues. Dangerous
Negligence.
Negligence. It's criminal negligence.
And you see, that issue had been reported before
2 weeks
the
or even
accident
6 weeks
happened.
before. Yeah.
And nothing was done. And they do this all the time. And I have tried. There's a day a transformer went off at my place and ikaanza kuwaka moto. Trust me, I called, I tweeted, I sent a message on Facebook. I even told the estate chairman. Nothing happened for 2 days. 2 days. Kama ingekuwa ni kuungua, sisi wote tungeiva huko.
Anyway, so on the same thing, mambo ya stima, they have said that they want to increase the bills by 20%. I don't know if you guys are ready for that.
I've taken them to court already.
20%.
I've taken them to court. I filed an application on the 2nd of October. You know, I work with a team called Energy Justice 6. Fantastic 5 other Kenyans along with me who've decided that no matter how these cases were settled in 2018 out of court, which is irregular because public interest matters cannot be settled out of court, we decided we're going to continue to pursue these cases. Now we see KPLC is trying to get EPRA, the regulatory authority, to increase our bills by 20%. And I filed an application on the 2nd of October. We have our mention tomorrow, and we are saying, so long as our matters are still alive in court, you cannot touch the increment. You cannot increase our bills by 20%, by 2%, by 5%. Leave it until our matter is heard to its finality. And we have to keep fighting like that. Like I told you, 15 shillings and 80 cents per kilowatt hour. What about 10 shillings per kilowatt hour? Now if they increase by 20%, and I'm sure people will already tweet and say our bills have already gone up. Some of these things they do as formalities, they have already been approved, Kinyuma, and one day you'll see a backdated Gazette notice saying, oh, electricity rates have gone up. So we are saying, no, you can't touch our steamer bills. We are suffering as it is. You have stolen from yourselves. You are thieves. You are part of a network of people who are going to indebt us to the tune of 6 trillion shillings over the next 20 years. We've said stop it. And that's why I'm an active citizen, and that's why we must all be active citizens, or else we'll just be there complaining about our bills forever and ever, amen, instead of saying enough is enough. We need integrity when it comes to services. And the 4th schedule of the Constitution, by the way, says that all matters, 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 all ma of reticulation, of utility, of electricity, water, all these public services must go down to the counties. Counties must be able to determine for themselves how they want water, electricity, everything to flow. But Kenya Power still controls power nationally. It has not been given to the counties. So let's say there's a county that's full of wind energy, Marsabit, for example, and Marsabit decided this is how we want to manage our stima issues. In fact, we have such a surplus, we shall sell to the rest of the country. They can't do that. Everything is still centrally controlled. And the more it is controlled centrally, the more complicated it becomes for the ordinary consumer to afford electricity.
Sad. Anyway, hii ndio Kenya yetu leo tuko mbaya zaidi kuliko vile tulikuwa jana. Anyway, I'm saying there's something that nimetumiwa hapa. Betty NK, I don't know who that Betty NK is. I mean, she can set as a teacher and someone will please inform women who have issues with holding urine or stool following delivery of their babies, fistula, that they can call me for surgery at zero fees. My mother tongue was almost influencing me. So I say, Shindwe. Sema, we need to tackle those issues once and for all. Women are suffering in silence. And the number is 0725 911 515 or 0780 911 515 or 725 911 515 or 0780 911515. We'll also still share that on a different broadcast so that we can see people can get help. I mean, at least if someone is willing to help people who are suffering for free, then that means that's Betty NK. Betty NK, you can drop us an inbox, but I also call you in your number nitakupigia ili tueleze how well we can go with this. Turudi kwa hii mambo ya Kenya. The other week we had a sheria that was saying that all the political meetings should be banned. Akasema kuna vita, kuna watu kanyagana. What's your feeling?
Well, I think if you're going to ban them across the board. You cannot have one rule for one group and another rule for another group. By the way, as I say this, you will see an onslaught saying, I'm a tanga-tanga.
I've already seen that on Twitter.
I tell you, I've been forced into this tanga-tanga box I don't even know. But anyway, I think there has to be a standardization of permissions. You don't give permission to one group and not permission to the other group. If it's time for campaigns and public meetings, let everybody campaign and publicly meet and offer the same level of protection and security. Not security to nyanyasa one group and security to protect another group. It has to be across the board. So for me, it's about a fair space for everyone to say and do whatever they want to do. And if we say this is not time for campaigns, everybody must stop. And in fact, we've been saying, hey, this is the earliest we've ever started on campaigns in Kenya. So when nobody was stopping reggae, people were meeting all over the place. Yeah. So let things continue. Come on, talk to us as Kenyans. Go all over the country, no matter who you are, where you are. Convince us that you are the people that we are supposed to be voting for come 2022. But this double standard, no, it shouldn't be.
You see, I was seeing the same meetings are happening. Niliona Gideon Moyo alikuwa pale kwetu Rift Valley, Mau, Raila Odinga, niliona Mugithi Bondo bwana, Mugithi Bondo. Nikaona Kalonzo Musyoka, Alfred Mutua was also out. I mean, every business is going on as usual. The question is, and if we're actually talking about building these bridges, do we build bridges by banning other bridges? I mean, what's your general feeling? Because I think it's even going to get things worse.
Hypocrisy. My general feeling is just hypocrisy. And you see, Gerald, like my sister here said, if we are going to obey the rule of law, let everyone who contravenes it be punished. Isikuwe ni wale tuko politically wrong ndio tunapewa punishment at a given time. You know, if you're going to prevent Ndindi Nyoro from holding a public rally, you need to also prevent Hassan Joho from holding it. You know, it has to be fair. It has to be fair and equal. We cannot sit here and say, and this also touches on the prayer day on Saturday. We cannot sit here and say, oh, you know, if my people who are called by my name repent, and then the following day we are busy tear-gassing some people somewhere and letting others gather. You know, hypocrisy. Kuna kakitu hapo ambacho akiko right, and we are cultivating that culture onto the next generation, which is so wrong. And it's not supposed to be happening that way. We cannot be saying that we are fighting for equality and equity, yet tukona rules different. And then the people who are not being oppressed right now, but were oppressed before, have sat down and folded their arms, saying nothing against this. Yet they want us to believe that they're defending the Constitution, the rule of law, the right to what? Protecting people from COVID. Kwa sababu COVID inapatikananga tu kwa rallies za Washiali na Boni Khalwale and azipatikani kwa rallies za 001. It doesn't make sense.
Talking about forgiveness and God, I don't know why we at times we treat God like a personal property. Like you tell God, come to a corner, let's talk, and you say, sasa wewe nataka tuongee na wewe, ule mtu atuombee msamaha, ule mtu mwingine ako hivi na hivi. The president State House. The president was there, the deputy president was there, the president spoke, the DP was not in a program. And then we come out and ask for forgiveness. I mean, do you think there's an honesty in the way things are done in this country?
Sometimes I think that we have gotten to the point, and I think somewhere in the good book it says, do not mock God. God shall not be mocked. I think we have spent a lot of time and cannot be deceived. We have spent a lot of time giving instructions and directives to the Almighty. And telling the Almighty what we expect. You don't do that. You don't do that. If you believe in God, if you believe in the divine, you are a servant of the Almighty, not the other way around. So when I see all these requests for forgiveness, see, it happens every year without fail. We come here, we weep, we wail, we mourn, we wear, we pour ash on our heads and wear sackcloth for about 2 hours, and then it's back to business as usual. And in fact, yesterday I was tweeting. I said, Your Excellency the President, since you have asked for forgiveness yet again, why don't you start off by forgiving us our electricity bills? Why don't you start off by making right, by considering every single person who's been suffering as a result of high electricity bills? That's a good start. Don't worry about all the other things you're talking about, Sijui legacy. Fix energy, fix electricity, remove those thieves, and you will get the forgiveness you want from Wakenya. For example, I would be willing myself to forgive him if he started tackling the thieves in the energy sector. But at the end of the day, we'll say, God forgive me, God forgive. It's meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Although I'm not one to also tell God whether God has accepted the apologies or not. But sometimes I think we really treat God like God does not see who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And that is only to our detriment and our ultimate damnation.
Someone said an apology without change is basically manipulation. So we try to manipulate God a lot. Yeah. When things get out of our control, then we run to God. Oh, let's go and pray. But then you see, you're praying. Have you really repented? You're praying. 2 minutes after you've prayed, you go back to the same sin. When Jesus, I think he gave someone back their sight and told them, go and sin no more, lest it comes back to you worse than it was before. But then you see, we pray, and then we actually go and do worse things. And then we come back, we pray again. Unajua ni kama tunachezea Mungu. At times when you're a child and you want something from your parent, you'll throw a tantrum just so that your parent can give it to you. And then you learn, kumbe if I throw a tantrum, I get what I want. So we are throwing tantrums at God. We are trying, we make decisions on our own, and then we drag God into our situation rather than consulting him first so that we won't have to drag him in later. And it doesn't work that way. We are the ones who have to fit into God's plan. God will never fit into our own plans.
Kidogo tuende tufanye dhambi alafu tutarudi. Now let's talk about political culture in this country before you even flip to mambo ya mashule na nini. The other day, in 2013, actually, you made a mistake. You said the campaigns, this is the earliest time the campaigns have started.
Actually,
in 2011, April,
yes.
Uhuru Kenyatta was in Nakuru launching his campaign, 2011,
yes.
when Kibaki was struggling to stabilize the country after PEV. So I don't think it's the earliest. It's even worse. It has been worse. Yeah. So and the thing is, when you look at the political culture in this country, at that time it was about, all right, let's come together with two communities. Now the country is united. Now the other community is out, and these other ones are saying, now we have an historical love affair. You guys, we've been friends, but we've been fighting for no reason. Now let's come in together. Let's have a political romance. Now the other person should not be part of this conversation. When you look at the political culture in this country, at what point do we develop a culture that thinks about the country and not about communities? The Kikuyu elders were in Bondo, and they have said, sisi na mtamaki kidheri na samaki ilikuwa imekutanishwa as a meal. I mean,
You know, for me, ethnicity has always been weaponized against Wakenya. You use ethnicity to create camps to balkanize the country. But I've always said, in terms of politics, you have the political class of the big stomachs and the political class of those who don't have, the rest of us. And so long as Kenyans, we are willing to be zungushwad hapa na pale, being told now today it's the Kikuyus and Kalenjins who are friends, now it's the Kikuyus and Luos who are friends, and then the people all over the rest of the country need to figure out where they fit in, whether the Luyas come in here, the Somalis are there, what Costa like this, sijui what, Wakamba are there, fielding many candidates, the Turkanas are sitting there, and then the marginalized, Rendile, the Borana, it is crazy. But at the end of the day, it's about interests, it's about power, it's about money. And we will always, until we rise up, be mismanaged under the name of ethnic groups sticking together. In fact, before the show started, we were talking about people twangaing mother tongue in public spaces. And I said, this is part of how we develop that culture where we have a them and an us. Then you walk into a place, you say Jerotich. In fact, this is why I'm always accused of being Tanga, because my name is Jerotich. So it is assumed instantly that I'm in that camp. They don't know what camp I'm in, but I can tell all Kenyans I'm in Camp Wakenya. I've only ever been in Camp Wakenya. No matter that my ethnicity is one that places me in Elgeyo Marakwet County originally, I live in Nairobi and I'm Team Wakenya. And if we allow ourselves as Kenyans to keep being divided along ethnic lines, we'll never progress. So all I can say is ethnicity is weaponized selectively by the political class of the big stomachs to ensure that come elections, we are foolish enough to run back to our kind of tribal enclaves and vote as per the instructions from our leaders. And we have to stop that. We have to, if we're going to change the course of this country for the sake of our children, for the sake of our children's children.
But the question is, as you say that, Jerotich, what's the crime in? Because we are all, politics affects all of us. It affects you, it affects me, whether you want to participate in it or not. And I think at a personal level, people can make decisions on what's the crime. Because I'm also saying on Twitter, oh, this chick these days is Tangata. What's the crime? Because we don't all need to agree. We are on a table today. I can be pro-Dida. And nobody should criminalize me for that.
In fact, sometimes when I say who I voted for in 2017, people want to get shocked and they don't believe it. There is no crime. There is no crime whether I'm in Kieleweke, whether I'm in Tanga, whether I'm saying nobody can stop reggae, whether I'm an independent, whether I'm whatever. Everybody has a right to politically express themselves and belong to whatever camp they want to belong to. What I'm actually underscoring is do not allow your ethnicity to drag you into a particular camp, because unatumiwa vibaya by the politicians. Use your head, because let me ask you, as a Kalenjin, does it mean my electricity bill is lower? No. Does it mean that I don't pay when I go to hospital? Let me ask also the people from Central Kenya. Tell me, when somebody is sick, do you go and you're told, oh, by the way, because you're from Central and your president is from Central, hutalipa? Everybody is equally suffering. And if we understand that there are no tax regimes for people from different tribes, we are all paying taxes. The people who skive taxes, who evade taxes, are the people in the political class of the big stomachs, and they are all in it together. In fact, these people who you see fighting in public, they go backstage and they watch soccer together. They are there cheering, drinking in their two locals in their upper deck neighborhoods. But at the end of the day, those of us in our places, we are saying, I'm going to vote mtu wangu. Mtu wako nini? What did that person bring for you? So we must use our brains as Kenyans, no matter our ethnic backgrounds. And we must be proud of our ethnic backgrounds. I'm never going to not say, I'm not a KU, I'm not a Kalenjin. I am. But does that mean that I abdicate my common sense and I abdicate my responsibility as an active citizen to choose wisely and choose appropriately? Absolutely not. And I refuse to be painted into any box. Nobody will paint me into any box. I'm Team Wakenya from start to finish. And if there is a candidate who articulates the philosophical spaces that I'm looking for, the manifesto spaces that has to do or that have to do with Team Wakenya, then you'll see me there.
All right.
She has actually put it very well. We are so programmed into creating this narrative of having a binary option. It's either or. If you're tanga, if you're not tanga, then you must be kieleweke. You know, if you're not pro BBI, then you know it's never just. Kuna so many options in life. There are so many options that we don't have to limit ourselves to two options. And you see, the problem is here. We limit ourselves to the two of the worst options that we can always find in this country. But there are people out there who don't have that clout that comes with all this. And then tunafatanga clout, alafu 2 years later we start crying foul. And yet we are the people who made those decisions. Wewe na PhD yako, unakaa huko mahali, unaacha baba yao akuwe gavana wako. Alafu 2 years later, you want to critique baba yao, na alifika tu class 4. Surely. Shida iko wapi? You know, we need to start thinking beyond our noses. We are very myopic. We are a very myopic people. We don't see beyond 5 years. We don't see beyond personalities. We have not made up our minds on what we want Kenya to look like. We don't stand for anything. Therefore, we are falling for everything that is coming our way. Oh, China wanataka kutupea loan? Later. Oh, sijui nao ni France? Later. You know, we don't have principles to stand on, and it should be a shame for us as a country. It should be a very big shame. Sahi tunafaa tukwe tumevaa sackcloth kama wale Wayahudi wa enzi za Esther na Mordekai, tumejipaka majivu huku, feeling so ashamed. But here we are thumping our chests as if there's something important we have done, when 57 years after independence we are still suffering from the same problems that our ancestors suffered from before independence. What kind of people are we?
I need to start saying you on a sackcloth for Monday. Jerotich, are you ready to go back to school?
Well, luckily for me, I finished with school a long time ago. But, you know, I think that this matter is not being treated with the seriousness it deserves. You know, children, I caught COVID. As you know, I had said in late July, I caught COVID. And I went for almost 40 days in isolation before I was really declared COVID-free and my symptoms were gone. This is not an easy thing to deal with. And in my household, I was in home-based care. My children did not catch COVID. Actually, neither did my spouse or the person who helps me in the house, because I think I went quickly into isolation. Children can be super spreaders. Children are extremely resilient. So you start sending them to school. Even if you say you've put sijui measures in place, what measures? Even if you test children, for example, your test results are only as good as that moment that you got your test results. You can 5 minutes later be infected. What happens when children go home and start infecting parents? Parents are less resilient. Parents are older. And what if you start, you know, we are not taking it seriously. And I think one of the things I see with the education sector is this is a natural result or effect of years of undermanagement, mismanagement, theft, and plunder in the energy sector. So infrastructure was not in place. If you go to other countries where there is not as much theft in education sectors, you'll find that even the way they have arranged for children to go back to school, learning in pods, in systems, in cycles, you come, you go, there's a very clear, it's because the resources have been made available over the years for that. You don't wake up after years of plundering Ministry of Education and say we are ready to go back to school, because even if you look at it, our classrooms are crowded. Teachers are not enough. Even if you wanted to do remote learning, where are those famous sijui tablets that were supposed to be distributed? Kids are still, maybe the safest children in Kenya right now are those learning under trees because they're in open air. And then maybe if there is COVID, finally. But I'm even saying it tongue in cheek, because it's a damn shame that children are still having to learn under trees. So this is a very dicey situation. And the second, all hell breaks loose, because we're seeing around the world and there's a second wave of COVID that is kicking in. The next moment that all hell breaks loose in Kenya and children are going home infecting their parents, when things have gone wrong, we don't have the services. You know how much money was stolen out of KEMSA. There are no PPEs. There's not enough reagents for testing. There's such a mess that if children begin to spread this disease, we'll be in trouble. That said, for whatever reason, as Africans, we have been spared. We have not been hit in the way that Europe has been hit, or North America. or other parts of the world, China, where it started. So for some reason, and scientists are still trying to figure it out, we have been spared. That does not mean we become careless. Doesn't mean we become complacent. I meet people all the time who say, "Hakuna COVID." I say, "I caught COVID." Even some people try to say, "Oh, umelipwa." I hear those the first patient zero was also someone named Jerotich.
Yeah.
Who was badly trolled. And I don't know, but I can tell you, as this Jerotich Seii, I caught COVID and I was symptomatic. Let us not joke with this thing, because when it catches you, and if you have a pre-existing condition, you are really done for. Children might survive it. It might manifest as a cough, or you don't feel good for 1 or 2 days, but you come and give it to your mother, who is the primary caregiver there in the house, or father who is the breadwinner, or mother who is the breadwinner. What's going to happen?
It's going to get crazy.
We have to be careful.
Let's even talk about the inequality in schools. There are some schools in Baringo which are marooned by floods. In Budalangi, there are schools which have been marooned by floods. When we talk about opening schools, are there children who are more equal than others? Because, really, what are the infrastructural strategies that have been put in place? Schools have been thrown off by floods. Zingine zimemezwa na maji. They even are hearing that the only thing the government has given is soap in a place where there's no water.
There's no water.
Equality in education. When you're talking about opening schools, we're opening for who? Is it only those guys who can afford?
When I was growing up, public schools were our only option. And we all went to public schools. In fact, those who went to private schools were few and far between. Maybe there were expatriates, maybe there were people who were going to have to go back to their country, so they needed a system other than the Kenyan system. Today, private schools are bound. Why? I went to school in the public school space, and my children, if I'm honest, are in a private school. Why? When I would love them to have gone through everything I went through. To answer your question about equality, all you have to do is go to northern Kenya to understand that you have one group of Kenyans that are less equal than the other Kenyans. And this is exactly the same in education. So even when we are saying all kids back to school, even before COVID, even before floods are drowning schools in Baringo and Budalangi, there was always inequality in education. What do you call it when you have 90 children in a classroom with one teacher? One underpaid teacher? That is inequality in education. Why should there be schools where some children are 25 or 30 in a class, or even in some cases 15 to 20 in a class, even in some cases 10 to 15? And by the way, as you go lower in number, the more expensive that school becomes. There is inequality in education, and this is across the board in this country.
And Lucia, I heard Soshan speaking, and I was really taken aback because he said that it does not matter, even if children are 300 in a class, there's no problem. When did we start saying bora elimu si elimu bora? Where does it? Because they're saying now, you go, it doesn't matter, just as long as you just go to school. That's what is important. Does that statement really make sense?
It doesn't. And coming from Sosion, I'm shook. Anyways. I don't know when it became bora elimu na si elimu bora, because Gerald, I'm also a product of public schools, pure product of public schools. Going through the schooling system, I had water in school. I had electricity in school. I had all the amenities that I needed. I was given textbooks and exercise books. Schooling for me was actually very fun, other than the vibokos na punishment and all these other things that come with schooling. For me was very fun. Nikiambiwa sahi nirudi shule with the people that I was with in the same environment, I wouldn't hesitate to go back, just as long as watoe exams kwa hiyo equation, I will gladly go back. I don't understand when the public schooling system became so bad. But then the commoditization of education, I think, has made it worse. When we are allowing these private solutions to public problems, and we are opting to go to private schools, taking our children to private schools that are not actually equally regulated with government schools, then that's where the problem comes in. Because at a private school, as she said, if you want your child to be attended to by a teacher in small numbers, given the attention that they really deserve, then you have to pay an exorbitant price. But then you see, here is what doesn't make sense to me. Education is supposed to help the country. So why isn't the country helping the education system in order to bring up people who can sustain the country. And you see, most of our leaders will tell you, oh, I got my degree from Punjab University, from Sijui which university, that are not in the country. They therefore don't give two shits about the education system in the country because they never had to use it. But trust me, if I was to be president tomorrow, I would task my CS of education with one job: make public schools good enough for my children as president to go through the public schooling system. Because trust me, Gerald, as president, I'm not taking my kid to a private school. No, and I'm not getting treated in a private hospital. I want the public systems to be good enough for me as president to use them before I can allow my people to go to those facilities.
I completely agree, and I've even failed in terms of the education bit because my kids are in a private school, and I grapple with it because I say, what has gone wrong? And I don't know if you've had Dr. Wandia Njoya here, but you need to have her on your show one of these days to talk about education. We have really, really fallen for the private solutions to public problems thing here in Kenya. And when you look at the type of school fees we pay, how many shambas can you buy by the end of your child's education? And if you have more than one, if you have two, in my case, I have three, when will I ever afford anything? Although I should not have said I have three. As Kales, we don't count children. You don't count children. You say, sere. However, you just
in fact, on that note, I need you to add another one.
No. In fact, if I add even 5 more, no, I can't. I think I've passed that age. Now I'm in elder.
You can always try. You never know. Things happen. Things happen in this country.
But on a serious note, we have already failed. Even with health. When you're sick, you look to see what type of insurance you have, and you say, will this take me to Nairobi Hospital?
Yeah.
Will this take me to Avenue? Will this take me to Aga Khan? Because we have already understood that if you're going to Kenyatta, either you had absolutely zero option or you are likely to die. Why? When it is the biggest hospital in this region, not just Kenya alone. And we should be pouring. And when you look at the budget and you see how many billions are allocated to Kenyatta Hospital every year, but we are still here paying for insurance so that we can look for our private solutions to public problems. This has to stop. Either they stop taxing us completely and tell us to use our taxes that we usually pay to just survive on our own, or they tax us and provide us the services that we pay for. Yeah. This NHIF business, this NSSF business, this Huduma, all of these things, what are they giving Kenyans finally at the end of the day?
Do you know NHIF does not cater to reproductive health?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. And I was shocked because I needed it. I don't have money. I don't have money to go to Nairobi Hospital. I don't have money to go to India. People are struggling right now. I cannot start saying, oh, mnichangia niende India, And you pay your NHIF thinking that it will come to help you when you really need it. On me, I go to hospital and I was told, no, that procedure isn't covered by NHIF, but I pay.
The most they'll give you is money for your bed. They'll give you money for your bed, but not for a lot of these things.
They're sending you there to go and sleep.
Say, we'll cover your bed. But the other thing as well, if you make the mistake of not having NHIF and you go to hospital, you'll be penalized for not having it. So even if you had to remove your own money out of pocket, on top of that, you'll have a penalty for not having NHIF. So it's a way of saying you must have it. Whether we give you services or not, whether we support you or not, no matter what, you need to have it. It's like taxes. Pay your taxes. Whether we do your roads, whether you have water, whether you have electricity, whether you have schools, hospitals, whatever, pay your taxes. We don't care. But if you don't, the penalties are there. They're there to come after you if you don't. So that's the same with NHIF. As people have discovered to their great shock, it can be up to, I forget what the amount is, but it can be up to 1,800 bob a day that you pay in penalties while you're in hospital if you don't have an NHIF card or you're not up to date with NHIF.
So we are being forced to take NHIF by fire, by thunder. Anyway, Jerotich, now, there's an elephant in the room that I would want you to deal with. They say they are white elephants, green elephants, black elephants, but they are all elephants anyway. The issues of humanity, KE. There are people who have been ranting about, money was raised and all this. And I saw yesterday on Twitter, a lot of people were putting us in a corner to put your task to explain what really happened with the money that was raised. I don't know if you mind clarifying that.
I saw those people. I've seen those same 1 or 2 or 3. I don't know if they are people because they don't have their avatars. They function in avatars. If you see somebody with numbers, you even wonder who this person is. But anyway, they have come a lot to say that with Humanity Kenya, I need to be accountable, etc., etc. Let me just tell you in 2 minutes or less. In March, when Corona was declared an emergency, I wrote an op-ed to the government and the people of Kenya, saying basically, as a humanitarian specialist, because that's my professional background, please be very careful how you handle people. We have a pandemic, but you don't want to increase the suffering as part of your measures to stop the spread of COVID in Kenya. And I was very clear. And one of the things I talked about was supporting families with cash, especially if you're going to tell people to stay at home, if businesses will shut down, if industries will be slowing down. And for example, the hospitality industry, where so many people went home. And it's not just the hotels on the coast. I'm talking about restaurants, bars, all these places in town, in our neighborhoods and everywhere. I said, government, please be careful and take care of people. Then somebody reached out to me and said, just this idea now, 150 bob, ni buy unga, just unga. And I said, surely. And I put it on Twitter. And then somebody said, who is this family? We want to help this family. Before the end of the day, I think I had 20,000 bob. Then I reached out to Kenya and I said, Kenya, instead of sending all this money to this one family, why don't we try and reach as many as possible? And that's how it started. People started sending money to my M-Pesa and I disbursed funds to Kenyans. And I did it 100% for free, because I said, if somebody has given me 2,000 bob for a family, I'll give that 2,000 bob to the family. But don't forget, for every 2,000 bob you send, 41 shillings goes to M-Pesa. Mm-hmm. And if you send 4,000, it's 61 shillings. So all the money I received, bar not a single shilling, went to the families. And I think by the 18th of June, I had provided 20 updates, 20 detailed updates on Twitter. And it's amazing what Kenyans did. We were at over 4 million shillings. So by the 18th of June, and I put that as my 20th, 19th or 20th update publicly on Twitter, we had raised a grand total of 4,046,000 shillings, 720. So 4,046,720 that we had raised in 87 days.
400,000?
4,046,720 shillings is what we raised in 87 days by the 18th of June. And we reached 1,804 families. And so when you look at that 4,046,720 shillings, there was a balance after sending the money to all the families of 1,852. So what I do is I say on Twitter, Wakenya, thank you. This week or these past 2 weeks or these past 3 weeks, you raised X number of thousand shillings, say 300,000 shillings, which I have disbursed to X number of families, and Kutuma costs this much, and this is the balance that we are carrying forward. But every one of my updates has the grand total. So every update 1, update 2, all the way to update 20 has the grand total. Now, the last time I put out an update on Twitter was June the 18th. And the idea was to do another update on July the 18th, because funding had slowed down. You know, there were some weeks where people gave 480,000, some weeks where people gave 270,000. In the early days, people were so generous. But as time goes on, COVID is biting people's pockets. They don't have so much money to give. By the 17th of July or 18th of July, I had COVID. I was sick. So right now, what is pending is my final update to Wakenya. And during that time, between my last update, which was the 18th of June, until today, when I look at the accounts, I have received 418,000 shillings. So in the past 3 months or so, 418,000 shillings have come my way, which I am disbursing to families. I think I'm at about 104 families right now that have received that. This amount of money, 418,000, will probably reach just under 200 families. And once that is done, then I will put out my 22nd update with the grand total. So right now, the money I'm sitting on in its entirety that will need to be audited is at 4,464,720. But in that 4,464,720, I'm in the process of disbursing 418,000 shillings. And when that disbursement is complete, I will put out another Twitter update, say, Wakenya, this is who we have reached. This is what Kutuma was. This is the grand total, this grand total being 4,464,720. And then I will hand my accounts to the auditors. They will have a look at it come and tell me, Jerotich, you must have failed math because there's a 500 shillings that you added or minused or whatever. They will come and tell me what my accounts look like. And the thing with this cash transfer program is it has operated entirely from my M-Pesa. In fact, for the first month between March 23rd and April the 23rd, where we raised 1.9 million, that money was sent directly to my M-Pesa. And as it came, I pushed it out. As it came, I pushed it out. And then iPay, a web-based platform, offered me a pro bono service where now we introduced a pay bill. So another 2 to 3 million was raised via the pay bill. But there are still people who kept sending money to my M-Pesa because maybe they're abroad and they could not use the pay bill system and so on and so forth. But ultimately, all of that exists on my M-Pesa statements. Some people are saying, publish your M-Pesa statements. I said, absolutely not, because part of Humanity Kenya's Cash Works initiative is the dignity and protection of the privacy of those people in need. You know, I had electrical engineers, I had chefs, I had mamambogas, I had welders, I had students, I had all kinds of people who reach out and say, I'm in trouble. I say, shika 2,000, shika 2,000. In some cases, people got 4,000, especially when the families were large or if there was an extenuating circumstance like illness in the family or an elderly person. But it was either 2,000 or 4,000, 2,000 or 4,000. I was not about to start publicizing. What if it was you, Lucia, who said, Jerotich, I have a problem here? Was I going to say, and here I am giving money to Lucia, here is her phone number? So when people asked me to publish M-Pesa details, I said, I cannot share people's phone numbers and names. Their privacy is important. They said, okay, you can hide their names. Then I put their numbers. Then they say, okay, hide the names and hide the numbers, and then just show the amount. So if you just show the amount and you've hidden the name and the number, then somebody will say, how sure are you that 2,000 went to that person? Mm-hmm. So there's no stoppage in terms of where people will say they're wametosheka. So I've reached a point where I've understood there are always people who will come out and say, we don't believe you. Why? Because Kenya is full of thieves. And it is impossible for many to believe that you can have somebody who has not stolen. And the audited reports will show you that I've not stolen. That said, we're talking about 4.5 million shillings roughly in total. We have 45 billion shillings stolen. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying small theft is different than big theft, but I'm saying if we could put our energies on the big thieves, this would make such a big difference. But for me, I'm so grateful to every single Kenyan who contributed 500 bob. I even had somebody who sent us 150,000 shillings. Other people sent 5,000, 2,500, 20,000. And as it came, I pushed it out. I'm grateful to them. May God bless them, keep them, multiply what they have, because they reached and touched. I think at the end of it, it'll be about 2,000 and something families that we have been able to reach with this money. Kenyans doing it for Kenyans. And I did not charge anybody. So for that reason, I didn't have a team. I don't have an office. I don't have an NGO. It was just Jerotich there, writing in my notebook and sending on my phone. I have thousands of phone numbers in my address book now. Every single person who has received money is catalogued there. Every single person who has given money, not anonymously, but has allowed me to know who they are, is also catalogued there. And one day, all of this will be available within a week or two to the auditors to have a go through and see. And you can even spot check, call, verify who got money, who didn't get money. This is the kind of public accountability we require. And if you cannot be faithful with 4.5 million shillings, you'll never be faithful with 45 million shillings, 450 million shillings, 4.5 billion, 45 billion, 450 billion. We have to be faithful and accountable for every single shilling that we receive. And I really hope that the few families that have been reached, because 2,000 families is not representative of the families who are suffering now because of COVID. And I hope that wherever they are, they were able to do something small. It did not change their lives, but it may have pushed them for one more day or 2 more days. And the needs are there, because even those who received keep coming back to me. They say, we need more, we are suffering. There's somebody right now who is outside Egoji teachers training who is not even able to be admitted because he has not paid his fees. And yet he's somebody who had received funds earlier. And so I look at that. There's an old mama in Turkana who received her 4,000. Her roof had caved in on her. She died last week. after having received the money. But I was told she died blessing all the Kenyans who had helped her. And she said, I'm releasing them and releasing those blessings. So the stories are many, but this program is dignified, it's private, we don't publicize, we don't make a big show, and we don't flag off donations. It is M-Pesa, confidential. Only auditors will see that.
The second question is now, and that's what some asking. I mean, who was making these decisions on who to give money and who not to give to?
You know, it was very interesting because when I said on Twitter, there was this family that needed, this person who needed 150 bob. People DM'd me on Twitter. So it was a Twitter platform initially. And they just said, I'm here, I have this problem. Please help me. So it was first come, first serve basis. Do you know I have over 1,200? The other day I was counting. I stopped at 1,200 requests still pending in my Twitter inbox. But the problem with that is there were some clever guys, some syndicates who started saying, let us pretend we are Mama Lucia who is stranded somewhere in Utawala. And there were a few people who tried to come in and raise funds for non-existent people. But I was able to figure out who those syndicates were. So unfortunately or fortunately, we are limited to the Twitter platform. And one of the things we wanted to do was to go more public. So I was not using Nyumba Kumi, I was not using chiefs, I was just saying whoever comes and says I have a problem, provided your name is correct, your phone number is correct, and your ID number. So if you give me a phone number and a name that don't match, that money, I will reverse it. In fact, I won't hit the send. You have to be completely clear. And if I now see a series of, say, 10 or 20 requests saying, I'm living with disability, then you start to see the same type of script of request. You say, Hawa ni makatel, ondoa, Hawa, and then I don't give to them. So it was really a very simple system. And even with that simple system, the needs are endless. And I know Twitter is elite. Twitter is elite. Not everybody's on Twitter. Yeah, so it was, that's how it started, very, very organically. And we are also going to close it organically because I also understand I cannot force or insist that Kenyans give indefinitely. This was an example to show that we can be humane, we can practice humanity. And many Kenyans on their own, without using Humanity Kenya, have been supporting people throughout COVID, and I encourage them to continue doing so.
So you are the one who was making decisions on who gets the money and who doesn't,
yes,
right?
It was a queue. It was a first come, first serve basis. And so somebody would say, I'm a student, I'm currently with no food to eat in my house, my parents are up country, please, this is my phone number, this is my name. I say, sure, and I would just be disbursing.
Na pesa ilikuwa inakuja kidogo kidogo, it's not like you're coming at once.
Not kidogo kidogo. It would come a lot. Like I told you, there was a week that we raised about 400,000. I was so shocked. Then there's a week you raise 100 and something thousand, a week you raise 70 something thousand, and so on and so forth. But as it came, because it was coming into my M-Pesa, I had to push it out because I didn't want to mix it with my own personal transactions as well. So the idea was to keep the platform as lean and mean as possible, as cost effective as possible. So it was not so much I was selecting, but rather people were in the queue. And some people would come, they would kasirika with me. I would say, you know what, there are 35 people ahead of you, please be patient. And when we run out of money, I say we run out of money. Many people are reaching out to me, and I know that those thousands in the queue will not even fit this 418,000, which I'm in the process of finalizing in terms of disbursement. And once it's gone, it's gone. Unless people, like this 418,000 might change if between now and the time I finish, maybe somebody sends another 5,000 or another 200 or another. So as it comes, that 418,000 might change slightly in terms of its total. But once that is done, my decision is now to say, hand over to auditors, please let us close this out. Because I'm not an NGO, I'm not a government agency, it's just me. And it took a lot of time. Some days I would work even 23 hours in the day just to disburse the money and to catalog and to make a record of everything. Somebody the other day said, are you an accountant? I said, not at all. They said, what, umefanya kazi? And I said, yes, it was a lot of work, but for the sake of Wakenya in need.
You had to do it. Yeah. All right, so another last question. So who is going to run the audit?
Well, I have an auditor who has already offered his services. He's based here in Kenya, and he said, when you're done with your accounts, please pass them over. And of course, I will then say who this auditor is. And the auditor, obviously, is not my brother or my sister or my uncle or my neighbor or someone.
Because I'm seeing someone do that.
There's also another auditor who's based in the UK who would also do it pro bono. And of course, if people have their suggestions for auditors, if they want to throw 35,000 auditors at this, they can do so, because there's nothing to hide. So if somebody has a suggestion for who could do the audit, in addition, but pro bono, I did this work pro bono. Everything, the internet platform has been pro bono. The web developers have done it pro bono. I have done it pro bono. So I'm looking for pro bono auditors who will say, we will peruse your X number of months worth of M-Pesa statements, look at the iPay statements and the money that went in, and reconcile everything and make sure that things were done correctly. And once we've done that, we put it out and close it. Isn't it also with government projects and so on? So the Auditor General will come in and say, this is what happened, there was mismanagement, or it was well managed, and so on and so forth. So I welcome that audit, because I have absolutely nothing to hide. Even those trolls on Twitter should understand I have absolutely nothing to hide, but I will protect the privacy of the recipients of this money. And the auditors themselves can choose if they're going to call, spot check, maybe say out of the 2,000, have a sample of 500 that they will call kuhakikisha eti wali receive pesa. And even some families who had brokers, I told you about the syndicates. Some of them called me and said, we got 2,000, but we were forced by our broker to give 200 bob back. You have criminals, even in a small enterprise like this, you have criminals. And I told them, I do not get a fee for what I do. Therefore, anybody who referred you to Humanity Kenya must not and should not ask for a fee. So the stories are many, the lessons learned are many. But what I can say encouragingly is that donors and other groups have actually started to buy into the cash transfer system, and many families are now being assisted. Hundreds of millions of shillings have been disbursed for cash transfers, and those organizations that are doing so, those donors that have provided money for that, kudos to them. Big kudos to them, because it's really important that we provide this assistance. So Jerotich and the 2,000 people is very different than the 2, 3, 4 million families who currently need a continuous injection of cash during these difficult COVID times.
All right, that's good. Well done for that. So those guys who are asking about the same thing, because jana kulikuwa na mambo mingi sana, uliza hii, this, I don't know what went on between whoever was working on this. But anyway, you guys have gotten the clarifications. We ask you to tune in so that you can get your questions answered. Myself, I'm not an auditor. I've never been. I'm not about to be. Not unless this guy decides to pay me just to say the numbers, to count the numbers. But to say who received and who did not, I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, thank you guys. I hope wale watu ambao walikuwa na shida wamepata clarifications, and if they have
Gerald,
anything else, they should wait for the audit to come out.
Trust me, after this, you will still see more questions coming. They'll say, but, because these are people who are there to cast aspersions, not to encourage or to support. Because these grand totals that they are talking about, the quantum, as they call it, has always been there on the 20 updates I've provided so far. So you say we raised this much, we disbursed to this number of families, this was what Kutuma was. And at the bottom of every single tweet where I've updated, I say grand total. Now, how much more clear than grand total can you be? So you'll see them still coming back to say, no, but we want to know this, and then we want to know the names. And so those people, at the end of the day, I do not let them distract me from the work that I'm doing, and the vision and the mission and the purpose. Because those who have assisted, those who have donated, those who have been assisted, understand what we are doing. And those are the people who really count. And those who really feel that Jerotich somehow has been raising this money for herself and has been stealing and so on. Wait for the audit, then you will discover whether I'm a thief or not. And I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, I am no thief. I've never been a thief, and I will never be a thief. And surprisingly, most Kenyans are like that. Because we are surrounded by so many big thieves, we think we are all thieves. We are not thieves. Most Kenyans are people of integrity, people who will not steal, who will not touch a shilling that does not belong to them. And we need to keep reminding ourselves as Kenyans that we are good people. There are a few bad people who have made us think we are all to blame, we are all bad, we are all corrupt, we are all thieves. No. If I'm not a thief, I'm sure you're not a thief, Gerald. And I'm sure Lucia is not a thief. And I'm sure millions and millions of other Kenyans are not thieves. And we must encourage and prop ourselves up that way. So I can understand the confusion that some people feel when they see we have raised almost 4.5 million shillings that has channeled through me to families. And they wonder, how come she has not stolen that money? But I'm not a thief. And many of us are not thieves. So I will keep underscoring that, and we keep reaching out and helping other Kenyans.
That's bad inside things because kesho mimi nianza kukosa usingizi ati kuna mtu aliniuliza ati pesa ulitumia sijui iliweka. I love my sleep bwana.
I actually think our trust has been damaged so much that we are no longer surprised that mtu ameiba. In fact, we get surprised when mtu hajaiba.
Correct.
Know, like, guy, Gerald did not steal that money. I'm shook because we are expecting for people to always steal from us. Tumeibiwa mara mingi sana. Like, we don't even know who to trust anymore. You know, someone comes and they earn your trust and then they do you bad and then you're like, oh, Jesus. We've been battered so much that we're now just bleeding on people who did not batter us. And you see now the problem here is now Kenyans wako in a place where we cannot even trust each other. I look at you and I know you're not a thief, Gerald. But then mtu akikuja tu hapa na karuma kapesa, I'll start looking at you sideways. Niko like, ndugu yangu. Yeah, but then you see, it's only about 8,100 people in this country who cannot account for their wealth. So it's safe to say those are the thieves. Out of 47 million, it's only a population of 8,100 that is questionable. That means a majority of us are not bad people. We are not thieves. We actually, I think Kenyans are very kind because the way they show up to help fellow Kenyans is just it's amazing. You see a story on TV today about someone needing medical help and 2 days later they get it. I mean, if that isn't Ubuntu, I don't know how else to describe it. We are very, very good people and we shouldn't let the few rotten apples just convince us that all of us are rotten because we are not.
So Seii, apana. All right. Thank you so much for that clarification, Jerotich. And I hope when the audit is out, you'll come back and tell us what the audit says. And whoever still wants to question it, atakuja tuambie ni nini. But as a person, I was just doing it for public interest. I don't have any interest. And it was out of that. And I'm happy that given the clarifications. And I'm happy because for you have nothing to hide. Umesema, the information is all out there. Wait for the audit. Pesa ilikuja ni pesa hii. Ilienda hivi na vile, so we can only wait for the audit. So I hope that will be cleared very soon. But again, it makes life very scary at times because I would not even want to think and say at you watu wa 10 mnatumia pesa nipeane because kesho you have your own life you've been living. You know nobody has been feeding you. Then suddenly someone starts saying tulikula pesa ya this and that. Tumekuwa kama serikali walikula pesa ya wagonjwa, tunakunywa uji ya wagonjwa. All right. Anyway, the issue on government agencies. Let's talk about government. I'm seeing on the People Daily there's a story that EACC has warned Raphael Tuju and Nick Salat in participating in siasa. EACC wanakuanga wapi na wanamkanga sanga. I've never understood how EACC operates. Who runs this EACC kind of thing? I mean, government agencies, they wake up and they sleep and wake up their own will. These are constitutional officers that are supposed to serve the interest of Kenyans. Today they're coming out. This and the actual thing about Tuju and Nick Salat. Someone like Matiang'i yesterday in a rally in Kisii, he's a public servant, appointed. He's never elected by anybody. He has no business in politics. Someone like Mutahi Kagwe was also running around. The EACC has been quiet. What is the idiots that runs around in government agencies and these bodies are supposed to streamline things?
No, I think it's all double standard. And, if I focus on Matiang'i and Kagwe and so on, I will also focus on the other side and say, you guys who are also campaigning. One could even argue that the deputy president, in his docket as deputy president, every time he's out there campaigning, maybe that should be a day he's not leapward because he's shall I say, outside the boundaries of what he's supposed to be doing as deputy president. Other people might argue and say, no, he's within his means. But that I've said a bit tongue-in-cheek and saying across the board, for me, it's double standards. So you have Matiang'i there. He's CS Interior. He's a super CS. He's the prefect of all the of all the CSs. But he's busy spending his time politicking instead of doing his work. So my thing is, people are paid, and even these parliamentarians. I was asking this morning, Mumenda Nyumbani, or you're still sitting there? People are paid sitting pretty, not to do their work. Where is the work they're supposed to be doing? So it's double standards. This is this is a 12th. This is a 12th. This was their deadline. The president should have heeded that advisory. But I also understand people went to court to challenge the advisory, which is also not correct because you cannot challenge the legality of the constitution. But that aside, back to what you had said, it's double standards. So EACC will pick on certain groups of people and not pick on others. And when you have government bodies and institutions that are politicized and weaponized against certain groups, that's where you have the tension that rises. You have the potential hostilities, the misunderstandings, and so on and so forth. So for me, if you're going to stop public servants from politicking, stop all public servants from politicking.
Yeah.
Don't pick on one group and leave another group. If politicians are supposed to go, if parliamentarians are supposed to go home, let them all go home. They have disobeyed the constitution. So for me in Kenya, it's about double standards. And by the way, even as you're looking at Tanga, that may be even saying, oh, we are being victimized, oppressed, we are being mismanaged. See, a few years ago, they were inside, in fact, they are still inside Jubilee. They are still members of Jubilee. See, they were there laughing as Raila supporters were being clobbered half to death. Baby Pendo and Chris Msando was killed when so many demonstrators were brutalized. They were there laughing. Now they're on the other side saying, oh, we are suffering, we are opposition. That's why I'm saying, Kenya, we are being misled by people. These are all part of the same coin. That one side of the coin, and we are the other side of the coin, sitting there being entertained. Yeah. So even as people believe that they are being hard done by now, where were they a few years ago? And if they are in government and they are government, what have they been doing to ameliorate the lives of Kenyans? So there's double standards, there's hypocrisy, and Kenyans are allowing themselves to be misled. Not all, because not all of us are stupid. Some of us have decided we are going to use our own heads. So yeah, Matiang'i, please do your work and stop politicking in all those areas and so on. You know, and Kagwe, can you focus on
kufukuza mikutano. Ukimwambia do your work. You can say.
But then he should scatter all mikutano.
What he does is yeye mwenyewe.
All.
Lakini yeye atengeneza yake pia.
But for him, then there's a double standard.
Who scatters him?
Who scatters him?
Yeah.
That's why he shouldn't be politicking. If his business is to scatter political gatherings that are so-called outside security parameters and so on, he scatter all of them. And he himself should not be in those same things, or else he has to scatter himself. I mean, really, seriously speaking. But these are the games. All of us who've been in election cycles for decades now, seeing how it goes, this is what happens. Yeah. And we are going to be mismanaged and entertained and misinformed and disinformed as Kenyans until 2022. Unless, of course, the reggae continues, and unless, of course, this Trojan horse called the BBI kicks in, which I hope it doesn't. I mean, there's a hot mess, and here we are. We can't afford electricity. We can't buy food. Schools are opening. Parents are broke. They don't have money. Even transport, kupeleka watoto, kununua school uniforms. Watoto wamekua. Since March, children have grown. The shoes are smaller. The uniform is not fitting. Parents have no money. But here we are, we can spend 7 hours debating the merits and demerits of Kieleweke and Tanga. Are we crazy? That's why I'm grateful to Kongamano Lamageuzi for coming in and saying, let's have a different conversation. Kenya, we are on our own. Let us stand for ourselves. So as Kenyans, we should stop being so foolish. Women are giving birth on the roads. A woman is boiling stones to cheat her children that there's food cooking. But we are spending too much time discussing who is right, who's wrong. And all these guys are in the same camp, the camp of big stomachs, people who have received plenty of money over the years. You mean we don't want money? You mean Kenyans don't want to live a good life? All Kenyans want to and deserve to live a good life. But there's one camp there that is busy misusing us, misguiding us, mismanaging us. And that is what the message is that we must keep passing on and not allow ourselves to be politicized into believing that right now the biggest thieves are Kieleweke, or the biggest thieves are Tanga, or the biggest thieves are those ones trying to not stop reggae. They are all in it together, and we will come 2023 and say yes, and then come 2027 we'll start again. Dividing ourselves. We have to break the cycle and understand that as Kenyans we deserve better and we deserve different, but we are stuck in the cycle of has-beens. We have to go for the same people over and over and over and over again. Majority of the population is under a certain age, but we are not thinking of leadership coming from there. I don't even belong to that category called youth anymore. And you have people in their 60s, in their 70s, in their 80s, some in their 90s who think that they can rule us forever. When are you letting young people step in and have a chance? It has to be a mix and match. Where is a dynamic, vibrant, new group of Kenyans who say we will do better? We have a beautiful country. I love this country with all my heart. I'm an active citizen because I'm a patriot. I'm a patriot not because I come from a particular tribe, but because I believe in the potential of this country. I tell you, and we have to stop as Kenyans getting misguided. People using God, donating money in churches, doing this, doing that, and using God to give us smoke screens and make us think they're good people. Kenyans, we deserve better. And the minute we wake up to that realization, the better it will be for us. And young people must be given a chance. Young people are our future. The future is already with us. But young people themselves also have to wake up.
Yeah.
They have to wake up.
Even as you talk about young people, I was seeing some old chaps. And, I think in this country, for you to be young, you only need to wear a t-shirt, wear some headphones, and say niaje watunguyas. You saw Nyachae the other day was saying niaje watunguyas, unajua nyinyi vijana, nini na t-shirt and headphones. I think that is what young in this country. Even Baba says I'm still young. Alibakisha risasi moja last time, amesema kumba hakuhesabu vizuri. Kulikuwa na risasi nyingine. Now he's re-engineered himself.
But that is why kazi kwa vijana. That is why kazi kwa vijana is young people are being told to go and clean drains. There's nothing of dignity and serious import that's being given to young people to do. When you see young people, they are of headphones, they are of music, they are of drinking, they are of partying, they are okonko utawezana, sijui what, and all of these things. And me, I'm older, so I'm like, and what is all of this that's going on? But I was once a young person as well. And so young people also have to understand that the way they are viewed as fodder for police bullets. They are viewed as the frontliners in demonstrations. That's why middle-class Kenyans will stay in their houses and let young unemployed youth be the ones to go and do the demonstrating. Young people have to understand they are being viewed in a particular way by the system. They are despised by the system. They are mismanaged by the system. And they must also treat themselves in a manner that when you're told kazi kwa vijana, which has been riddled with all manner of scandal, that our work is more than just cleaning drains and sweeping the roads. There's dignity in that as well. I'm not saying there's no dignity in work. There's always dignity in work. But why aren't we getting young people to do more technically competent things? If KPLC has been shindward, why can't we have a system where we are also building the capacity of young people, for example, around issues of electrical engineering? Why is it that when we say kazi kwa vijana, we're only leaving them to the mindless, menial, dangerous labor? When I was in Korogocho a few months ago, and I saw young people cleaning the drains without gloves, without protective equipment, and these drains are full of all manner of toxic waste, human waste and other forms of waste. And then at the end of the day, unalipo, I don't know how much, 600 bob, 500 bob, 475. So as young people, they must also know that if they are being misused in this way, they rise up and say, enough is enough. We are worth a lot more. But look at the situation. Schools, people are being told they are going to repeat. Universities are overcrowded. People are graduating. They are being told, don't look for employment. Be self-employed. How am I self-employed and I cannot afford electricity? I cannot afford rent. I cannot afford anything. So at the end of the day, I'm there sweeping drains because that's the only thing I can do. And for those who are sweeping drains, know that there are hundreds of thousands others who have no work and no way of dignifiedly supporting themselves and their families and eating at night and sleeping. Things have to change in this country.
Nothing has to change. Even as you speak on that, you know it's very legal for you to generate power. If you wake up today and you say you want to generate power for your village.
There was a solar system, a solar setup plant in Nyanza that was set up. They had applied to EPRA, the Electricity and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, who you apply to when you want to have your license to produce power. That license was pending for so long. They were not told yes, they were not told no. They started their solar setup. Do you know that it was brought down by Akina KPLC? By Ministry of Energy, EPRA, that plant was destroyed and they were powering their community. We have a right to do that, but you will have delays and obstructions, and at the end you'll be told this is illegal. So yes, you can put a solar panel outside your house, but you cannot build a mini grid, because if you do, you need permission, you need licensing, and you'll never get that licensing because Kina KPLC want you to buy their expensive power forever and ever and ever to fill the bottomless pits of the thieves, the cartels, the stomachs of those cartels. They are never satisfied. There's no amount of money that will satisfy them. So you have heard them talking about nuclear. You heard them talking about coal in Lamu, as if Lamu, that beautiful ecosystem, can sustain coal. Until we need to have cheap electricity. We have an infinite resource of geothermal. We have wind like no other wind in Marsabit, but our electricity remains high. Every time CS Keter tells us, we are generating more power, prices should go down, everything keeps shooting. Tell me, in the past number of years when we have said, actually, we can afford our electricity. If anything, with our geothermal and wind alone, we should be able to produce sustainable, cost-effective electricity. But the problem with that is in between, and I forgot to mention KETRACO. KETRACO are the guys who evacuate power from all these places and bring them to Suswa, to the different substations, and then it's now distributed and sold by Akina Kenya Power. There's also a lot of corruption there. So even when you have clean energy, like Lake Turkana wind power, the process behind it is dirty. So clean energy in Kenya is dirty. So until we get rid of the thieves and the cartels in the energy sector, there's no way you're saying we're producing clean and cheap steamer. We can't do that until we regularize and we are constitutional. You know, there's public procurement and assets disposal acts in the Constitution that comes from the Constitution. We also have finance management. All of these things exist and they're continuously violated in the energy sector. I would say the same in the health sector. You saw the scandal with the managed equipment services. I would say the same in education. In many ministries, infrastructure, transport infrastructure, housing, all of that, there are always violations of constitutional provisions for correct management of resources. Until we address that, until we address disobedience to the Constitution, and that there are actually consequences for disobedience, we will continue to see impunity. That's why these parliamentarians who are supposed to go home for disobeying the Constitution are sitting in Parliament, unrepentant, disobedient, and saying, Hatwendi mahali, we are here to stay. Yeah. So impunity exists everywhere, in the legislature, in the executive, and in even in the private sector, public sector, down to the smallest business person. There is always impunity because we see it happening at the top. So let me tell you, Gerald, we are very far from a good space in Kenya, but I'm hopeful that if we can be constitutional and respect and obey the Constitution, it has all the answers to the questions that we have. And it has the ability to bring about fairness and justice to every person in Kenya. Whether you are living in Moyale, or you are living somewhere in Magadi, or whether you're in Taita Taveta, or you're somewhere in Migori, or you're in West Pokot, or you're in Nyeri, there is an opportunity for every Kenyan to live fairly if we respect and obey the Constitution. But we also have to bring the right leaders on board. That's why I say madness is doing the same thing over and over again, recycling the same people over and over again, and expecting something different. We deserve different, we deserve more, we deserve better as Kenyans, and we need to be prepared to fight for that, no matter the cost, because like I said, it's for our children and our children's children.
All right. Lucia, who will scatter Matiang'i? Are you ready to go and scatter Matiang'i? Because now he's been assigned the scattering of other people, and Jerotich has told him to do his work, which is scatter. But as he scatters, he also gathers for himself. Who is going to scatter Matiang'i?
You know, Matiang'i is a monster that was you. My sister said something very important. It is the people who are crying foul right now who are comfortable a while back. And there is a tweet here. Unajua wanasemanga mwanawake hatusahau wingi kitu. Ile makosa ya 1996 Thursday saa 8 jioni tarehe 3 tutakukumbusha. Twitter pia haisahau wingi. On 18th December 2014, Kipchumba Murkomen tweeted and said, "The Security Amendment Bill 2014 is here." And someone told him, "It will come to haunt you. Watch this space." I don't know if he remembers. Ndindi Nyoro wrote on Facebook, "If Wakora rules against the people of Kenya tomorrow, the president should declare a state of emergency for 6 months and suspend the constitution. Within this period, he should rule by the fist, make judiciary a department of the executive, and redeem our country from dark forces by scraping some useless entities like the Supreme Court. These characters must be brave, must behave tomorrow. There is no two way about it. We are African and Africa is our business." Now, the monster that they created way back in 2014 has now come back to bite them. And they're crying foul. For who, Ndindi Nyoro? For who, Kipchumba Murkomen? For why? Kindly explain to me like a small child. Because you made these rules that are now oppressing you, thinking that you are oppressing your opponents. Alafu sahi it has come back to bite you in the ass. Do you feel the pinch yet? And you know, for that reason alone, wote wanafaa kufunga mdomo. Because if they're not going to stand for truth and justice and equity and observance of the rule of law and upholding of the Constitution, then they have nothing at all to say to us. And they're out here saying they're defending the Constitution this, they're defending the Constitution that. They're out here bragging about the numbers that they have in both houses of parliament. Why aren't they changing these things that are oppressing them so that tomorrow they don't have to oppress anyone else? Why haven't they started there? So Akuna, it's just hot air they're blowing out here, Gerald. It's politicking. They're trying to get sympathy votes, and we are so gullible that we are going to listen to them and woye them, but we shouldn't. Youth in Nigeria have been protesting police brutality in their country, and they've gotten somewhere. Maybe they haven't gotten exactly what they want, because hiyo kitengo imekuwa disbanded, and the personnel have been deployed to other departments, which still means they still have the same problems, because it's the same people just rebranded. Ni kama kutoa ilikuwa inaitwa nini squad, and then now it's sting squad. You know, we haven't changed from police force to police service. Tabia ni zile watu ni wale. The training is the same. But then the protests that this youth in Nigeria did caught global attention, and the whole world actually saw the ugliness of the thing that they were protesting against. Muhammad Buhari cannot hide his face anymore. He has to show up and speak up because of those protests. And Twitter played a very big role. We are here, we are being oppressed. Tumenyamaza, tumekaa, ni kama tumefungwa na minyororo. We cannot speak for ourselves. We don't even know our own worth. So we don't fight for it. Matiang'i should be scattered by the same people who created him as a monster. The same people who enabled him to get those powers are the same people who should scatter him. And I'm talking to Kipchumba Murkomen.
All right. We are going to pick calls. As usual, nambari ni 0779-800-010 or 0779-800-010. Bunga la mwenye nchi iko wazi 0779-800-010. Kuna mtu simu yake nimemiss pale 0779-800-010. Bunga la mwenye nchi iko wazi 0779-800-010. You can join in, alafu utuambie ni lipi ambalo unafikiria kuhusu hii nchi ambayo inaendelea. As we wait for the call, ikija tunachukua. Tumeona kuna mtu hapa anauliza what happens to people like Jerotich Seii when they get to public offices. Wanasema case in point Rachel Omamo. Sababu Rachel Omamo kitambo alikuanga mtu hatari sana, lakini siku hizi she is reduced to a pale image of herself. And it's general. You look at people like Muhammad Ali, who are firebrand people getting systematic oppression and all that. Today, they are part of the things that they used to fight. You look at every other person who has been out here and doing public office. And I think labda kuna mashetani pale, we need to exercise the office, the political office. What happens to good people who get into politics or into leadership and become bad?
I think it's a power of impunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anybody can practice impunity if they know they can get away with it. As kids, when we were growing up, we knew that if we were naughty, and mom or dad didn't find out, or auntie or uncle or teacher didn't find out, or Kogo or Kugo did not find out, then you can get away with it. I think there's a culture of impunity within the system. Whether it is a legislature, whether it's the executive, whether it's a judiciary, people can get away with literally murder sometimes, but often theft. Oh, hello. Sure.
Good morning.
Morning, BITOK. How are you?
Salama sana, how are you?
Fine. This is Solela.
Yes. Niambie dadi.
Salama sana. So, first, I congratulate our tacklers, Lucia and Jerotich, for the good topics they have brought forward. So, I have 4 issues to address.
Yes, very quickly.
So, one of them is the commodification of public goods. So, because when you look at other countries such as China, Singapore, and South Korea, they allow public sector to come in, as Jerotich was giving an example of solar power in Nyanza. Such that what the cartel and the government have decided is that they commodify each and every public good, then they make it so expensive for you even for a common mwananchi to acquire the service. Such that so that they can find a way to be able to milk the citizen. So my question will go to Jerotich. How can the citizen be able to reverse this trend? Yes, we appreciate the work she's doing, and she's doing by going to court. but she needs more support because the citizens also must be re-educated. We need to re-educate our citizens. So how can we be able to do this? Because people in rural areas are suffering because it does not make sense to charge the same price of electricity for someone who is in, say, Nairobi, and charge the same price for someone in Budalangi who even does not have a home, and by the time 6 months they have not had access to electricity. But when Kenya Power returns to the electricity, they will be charged for those 6 months they have not been able to access power. Two, on the issue of governance, we are seeing a trend where the governors and the president, they have their deputies, but they decided not to give them work, and these people are consuming public resources. They are consuming our taxes, but their bosses just decide to put them under their mercy. So, it's a worrying trend for us, and how can we be able to think on how to sort it? Then thirdly, I was reading a newspaper where we have a mad person, for lack of word, where he says that we will have mandatory cleanup. This kind of language cannot be used on citizens. Maybe in military camps it's acceptable, but it's only us citizens who are allowed to use such as mandatory because our taxes are being used. So, be it mandatory, let it be mandatory in camps, but we will not clean up because we pay taxes. It will only be mandatory if we will be paid upfront. Then they tell us we have paid you upfront to clean your neighborhood. Then it's mandatory. And lastly, we have for a long time elected our representatives on their terms. It is a high time that we decide to elect them on our terms, because it is also foolhardy for anybody to cajole us that elect me so that I can be able to sort out the perennial flood issue in Budalangi. And these people of Budalangi pay taxes. People of Mandera pay taxes. So we don't need anybody to cajole us to elect them so that we can sort out our problems. We need to sort out our problems because he has decided that that's the job he wants to do. Thank you.
Alright. Sasa juu mmekubali kuingia kwa military, tafadhali mkuwe tayari mnunue vifagio. Every month mtakuwa mnaosha town na kupanguza na kufagia. Don't ask questions. Nunua kifagio. That is actually that is the reward of militarizing there. And those are discussions we need to have. I was saying Sonko has come on guns blazing for the last week. He has been attacking the president for the last 3 days. And I mean, these things are jokes until it gets serious. The way you attack you, they are laughing about it, until it becomes a problem. Abdullah, good morning. Habari Mandera.
Salama sana, tuko sawa sisi.
Leta habari. Umenunua kifagio? Nisikia unakuja Nairobi, unakuja na kifagio. Huku tutakuwa tunafagia town every month.
Huku sasa 4.5 million Nairobians against, let's say, 30,000 people with guns. How are they going to administer that?
Mtaosha town mpende msipende na kupanguza KICC madirisha.
Yeye aanze kwanza hiyo ya kanjoa oshe mbadi, sisi tutaosha yetu. I'm following Jerotich, and most Kenyans must know that first of all, leaders are not supposed to solve our problems. They're just supposed to make laws that are going to prosper this country. Kenyans are paying tax. They just need to have some financial prudence. Now, an issue of someone once said that good governance never depends on laws, but upon personal qualities of those who govern. The machinery of government is always subordinate to the will of those who administer the machinery. The most important element of government, therefore, is the method of choosing leaders. Now, in Kenya, as Kenyans, we need to understand that whether you are in Mandera or Nyamira or Bondo or wherever, Budalangi, like my friend was talking about, we all have the same problem. On the issue of energy, like Northeastern, we have, luckily, with the grace of God, the abundance of the sun.
Nasikia mko na upepo pia inapiga kupiga.
Upepo tuko naye nyingi, Mungu ametupatia. Kama hatuna mvua tuko na jua na tuko na wind. So what we need is people. I ask one question, and I also want my sister to Jerotich to help me. Who are the thinkers of this country? Who think for us? Because, like, if you look at the Magoha-led ministry, they're bringing a new curriculum or syllabus for Kenya. If you look at it, it has been borrowed from Finland.
From where? Senegal?
Finland.
Oh, Finland. Okay.
They just played around with the word. If you study it carefully, you will realize that most of the things they're saying are done in Finland, a European country that has the ratio of pupil to teacher at 13 at 1. Huku Northeastern, wale wa Kenya tuliandika kutoka Kiambu na Murang'a na huko Bungoma wametoroka. So at primary we have 70 pupils against 1. Secondary we have 100 students at 1. At a school of 400 secondary school students, we have only 5 teachers. So when you look at Magoha in Nairobi, he has not come to Mandera. I look at him and I'm like, a school of 5 teachers, and then you want to happen amid all this COVID chaos. The schools have no permanent water. And then I think Magoha doesn't know that African children wait for each other outside their homes. So by the time they are going to school, they go in groups, even in those buses. So if there will be corona pandemic amongst one of them, then by the time they're going to school, they're all infected. So how is Magoha going to separate kids who have already infected each other from their houses?
It's left for him now to tell. Maybe he'll put doctors in every home.
Hugo Mandela, some schools, like, they will have 50 kilometers to have a nurse, not a doctor or a specialist or a surgeon or a physician, a nurse. 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers. So we need an overall system. We have people in Kenya who have integrity. We have every community has decent people. But those decent people must come together. Yesterday I was seeing that they were telling us our Kikuyu brothers and Jaluos are meeting in Nyanza. I was asking, what happens to the other communities? Can they also meet and discuss their political dispensation? So Kenya needs sober minds and say, we need the work of the government is to govern. Our role is to pay taxes, and those in position of leadership must use these resources prudently so that we improve our country. 30% of our budget is stolen at the budgetary level. So we need the like-minded Kenyans like Jerotich there. I always watch her on KTN News. So what we like to do is, there are many Kenyans who will have ideas and will want this country to change. I have young children. I don't want them to suffer as I'm suffering right now.
Okay, Abdullah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Asante. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, BITOK.
Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine. This is Governor Mushendo.
Oh, Governor Mushendo.
Yes, sir.
What are you doing?
Gotina kauli mudo anje.
Weko.
Ni bere mudo man.
Asga mekura samaki na therapia.
I'm enjoying today's show. We'll talk about issues of governance, very close to my heart. And I think one of the problems we have in this republic is selective application of law and order. I think that's what we are suffering from today. People get to power and they forget that there was a process that got them to that position. And you see, Palmer, there is a saying in our Kikuyu that says, now, translating that is saying that there is no crown that will always ring on that one head forever.
Inazunguka.
There always comes a time when you have to hand over that crown. And I think for me, that is where the mistake we make. We are getting young people, we are giving them positions, they get up there and they forget the process that got them to that position. I think that is what is happening with our ruling party called Jubilee. These fellas who are kneeling down in almost every church every other weekend. Wakiwekelewa mikono karibu wawekelewe miguu. Lakini walienda wakasahau. That is why you see the other day in Murang'a they were throwing tear gas in a church when mamas are praying. And I think for me, as we are talking about governance, people must accept to put value in the system of government that we have. I don't believe for one moment that we would really need a constitutional movement to make this country great. I think, I don't know whether you have seen a tweet by Mwari Mutinda. He has tweeted the president driving a motorbike. I'm told that it is one of those that was donated by WL. And then he puts a caption that says that a rare moment of the president delivering fake promises.
Finally, we have a picture evidence.
I will tell you that but I'm just trying away from the comical part of it. It is Kenyans expressing the disappointment they have, putting up a government that they had so much hope in. This government has all other governments combined. Corruption cases cannot even be half of what this government has administered. And I think for me, it's that as a citizen, we have refused to take up our role of checking on our government. We have refused to deliberately put government to task. Some of us have become what we call, if you read about the dynasties that have been there over the years, there was something that we used to call court poets. Their sole responsibility was to get praises for the king. Whether the king is naked, whether the king is high, whether the king is taking the wrong direction, their work is simply to tell the king, may you live forever. You shall not die. You shall live forever.
What a job.
That is what we have reduced ourselves to. We Kenyans, we have become court poets. We continue singing praises to those who continue to oppress us.
All right.
Yes, and until the time we wake up like our guests there and say enough is enough, we shall continue to be tied up in these chains of poverty. So for me, I think Kenyans need to feel what they are feeling now. I want the rest down they feel now to sink down in their hearts. So that as we come to the corner where we change leadership, we shall change leadership based on the deliverables that person can give us.
Sio mastori.
Yes.
Haya, sasa gavana.
Nimeshukuru sana.
Na wache kupotea.
Mtoka Nairobi mkuja mvurute hewa ya Limuru ni mzuri haina.
Utakuja kuvuruta hewa lakini ujue sasa kuingia Nairobi kuanzia next month lazima visa ni kifagio. Kama una kifagio usijaribu kanyaga Nairobi.
Let me tell you. Yeah, nobody needs to be informed. Nairobi is not a cocoon of disciplined forces where people take orders without questioning.
Are you about to question? I'll not.
He is so taken up by the fact that he was in the army, where he tells people to jump and they jump. He should know that this is Nairobi.
And you guys will fight back.
Kwa lugha ya mtaa tunasema ajue hili ni jiji.
Ajue ni town. Haya sawa ndugu yangu. Kuwa na siku njema. We pick the last call. All right. Simu ya mwisho. Vipi?
Yes, Gerald.
Yes, sir, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Watafuta kifagio?
Mimi naitwa Lele.
Mambo Hilary.
Niko poa.
Pole, leo nimekuita Hilary Kosgei badala ya Lele. Pole sana. Apologize.
Sasa hebu salimia Chero na Lucia.
Chero unasalimiwa.
Tumesalimikeko.
Unajua umesema vizuri sana Chero. Nikakumbuka I went back to the village for a minute.
Sasa unajua kuna mtu ameuliza swali kwa comment. Which actually ni nataka kuuliza. Unajua I watched Millie Odhiambo. Millie Odhiambo alikuwa Cradle. Inaitwa Cradle International.
Alikuwa wapi?
It was Cradle.
She used to run an NGO called Cradle International. I think it was about kids and something. She used to be very sober, very issue-oriented. Muda ameuliza, what happens when people join politics? Because Millie Skizi chenye anaongea, is out of touch with reality. She no longer represents what she was. I used to be a very big admirer of Millie. Now, unajua hii tunali nauliza Chero because I see her going the same path because I have watched her.
Hata mimi nimeamua kuachana siasa narudi kufungua kanisa nikuwe pastor. Acha niekelee watu mikono.
No. I've been a follower.
Yes.
Nimempata kuanzia kitambo mpaka ile siku alianza kuwa guest speaker KTN News akiwa na Ben Kitili na kina nani Bichache. No, she's issue oriented. She has passion to want to change things.
Ndio nimeshtuka umesema ati anaelekea huko namuona Chero na korada mbaya.
What usually happens when someone is elected to office? I think what is she? Does she know that there's that disconnect? How does she want to handle that so that akishaingia hapo, akishaingia elected office or position of leadership, and assist could represent the issues. She's passionate about, especially KPLC. She's very passionate about issues that really affect us as citizens. Now, I can't rule out the fact that maybe she will want to run for office at some point, and I think she is going to be successful. She has everything that it takes. How is she going to navigate that? Ndio sasa akishakuwa huku anaona ni kama kwa the other side of the fence. You get me?
Nimekuelewa ndugu.
That's my question for the morning. I think that is she can explain that.
Asante sana bro. Wacha tatuambia lakini mwana pale kama ni mapepo kwa foundation kuna kitu iliwekwa. Nafaa ibomolewe tuanze afresh. Mtu mwenye alichimba foundation lazima kuna kitu kiliwekwa hapo ndani.
Ya pale nilisikia ati all 300 and something of them want to come for the Jerusalem dance. Alafu something very petty. Alafu when it comes to issues yenye ina affect wananchi, they don't show up.
That's very funny. Sawa ndugu yangu, kwa na siku njema bwana.
Wewe pia.
Thank you so much, take care. Alright, tutafungia hapo masimu kwa leo kwa sababu ya wakati, naona we still have almost 5 minutes or 7 minutes kabla hatujamaliza programu. Wanauliza nimeona kuna mtu hapa anauliza kama umeoleka na naona yako in a relationship. I don't know. Is a pepper shindwe. Anyway, sawa. Anyway, guys, let's look at the I know you've been picking up the questions from the listeners. I'll give you an opportunity to do your reaction.
Thanks very much. For the first caller who talked about what we need to do as citizens, I mean, I could have just stayed complaining quietly about my electricity bills forever. I think as citizens, we have a responsibility, where possible, to educate ourselves or listen to information. I was educated by people also about the energy sector, and I'm not from the energy sector, but I have read so in depth that I'm familiar, I'm aware, and we seek all possible sources for correction and redress. We are in court. We had a demonstration last last year. We do a lot of public education via social media. So citizens need to be active. That's why I call myself an active citizen. And the more of us know that we are being robbed, it's not our fault, it's not at Ituliata Mata on and so forth, the more we can rise up as a collective bloc, as Lucia was saying, and speak up and out like the youth in Nigeria about the security force. I want to say this mandatory cleanup business is crazy. It is unconstitutional. Niko na fagio nyumbani, and I will clean my house and keep my, but no, it is unconstitutional what is happening. And by the way, if they want us to sweep the city, they might as well remove our taxes, so that they say use your taxes for other things, but once a month you'll come and clean your cities. Whatever is happening, whether we like the idea of cleanup or not, it is unconstitutional. And I'm glad that this issue of NMS is continuously being challenged in court. The gentleman from Mandera, I agreed with him about leaders and how we get them in place. For me, if we don't reform the IEBC, and it doesn't matter who you want to have in power, we might want GERALD as president. But if the powers that be have a different idea, and IEBC is instrumentalized the way it has been over the years, we will never have the will of the people respected at the polls. So IEBC is the first place to reform, even as people are politicking now. If IBC is not touched, if IBC is not reformed, servers will continue to be in France, where this and that, and we will have violence. You saw what happened in 2007. You also saw what happened in 2017, and then you eventually had NRM, etc., etc. And then he asked, who are the thinkers of the country? We are all thinkers in this country. We have to stop allowing other people to think for us. No one has a monopoly on thinking. So when you have thought leaders who talk about education, and then they're ignored by Akina Magoha, they're ignored by the curriculum people, these are the thinkers out there. But the problem is they are not in power, or they are not in positions of decision making. So they can think all they like, speak all they like, but the powers that be have been told to think, or have decided to think a particular way. But we are all thinkers as Kenyans. And then a very important issue. Oh, and by the way, Finland, it's true. How can we be told now we do like Finland? Finland has the infrastructure. They have a small population. They know how to we cannot forever ape other systems all over the world and say this is how we shall run our education. Finally, will I change? Millie Odhiambo is a friend of mine, and I knew her when she was executive director of Cradle, and she's still a friend of mine. In fact, Millie Odhiambo was one of the first people to say, on this matter of 2/3, we are wrong. As Parliament, we are wrong. In fact, as they are gathering to do Jerusalem, on several occasions, when they were to vote on 2/3 gender rule, many parliamentarians would leave the House of Parliament and go sit in the lounge somewhere and wait for voting to happen. They deliberately sabotaged quorum. They have been disobedient. And I thank Millie for being one of the ones who say, enyewe hapa tumekosea. And the advisory by the CJ to the president is correct, because we have violated the constitution. But about leadership, and I had said it earlier on before the first call came in, when there's impunity, there's disobedience. So if you think you're going into a system that is rotten and dirty, to change it from the inside, and you find so much rot and dirt, it is entirely possible that you get sucked into it. So what we need to do is clean the rot and the dirt, take away impunity, so that when you go in there, you're bound by a set of rules that you cannot violate, even if you felt tempted to. But that said, these are very important questions. How do you know I won't change if I get into elective politics and I win a position and I'm somewhere? How do you know I won't change? You don't know. You have to believe and trust that what I say is what I will do. But when I get into a position of power and decision making, I cannot be in a rotten, dirty, corrupt place. I cannot say tomorrow I will be CS Energy. When the place is dirty, the first thing we have to do is rid the energy sector of the thieves and the cartels. Then you can run a clean network. Or else Jerotich can become CS Energy all she likes, and you'll all be shouting at me because you'll say I have made no difference there, because the cartels, the thieves, the momentum of impunity and disobedience and corruption and theft was so powerful that one individual, himself or herself, cannot change it. That's why when you talk about Jichopevo, you talk about Milio, you talk about others, at the end of the day, one person alone cannot change a system that is rotten. So let's change the architecture, the system that allows impunity to thrive. So that's what I'd like to say in response to those who have called in.
I always say, my voice alone is not enough. We have the same systemic structures that were used by our colonizers. We've never changed. We haven't changed the way our police are trained. Our policemen are trained to believe that we are the enemy. The way government operates is still the same way that colonialists operated. That is why when you protest, all of a sudden GSU wametumwa. When you speak your truth, Subaru inakungojea hapo chini. It's just the colonial structural system. And it's going to take the whole country to have it changed. One person alone cannot. Jesus already came and he went. We are waiting for him to come again, if we live to get there. But then there is no Messiah that is going to deliver Kenya from the structural issues that we have in our systems. It is only when we decide to stop accepting mediocre services from our government that we will change that. When we elect our leaders, it is important to vet them, something that Kongamano la Mageuzi is trying to enshrine in our thinking, because we don't vet our leaders. We vote our leaders based on whatever it is they're selling us. It's like marrying a girl based on her Instagram profile. You don't know who she is. You've only seen her photos and her videos. And you decide, oh, this is the girl I want to marry. Or this is the boy I want to get married to. It doesn't work like that. It shouldn't work like that. You see, you have to vet your leaders. You have to know their ideologies, their principles, the people that they are. We never knew who Muhammad Ali Jichopevu was. We only saw what he wanted us to see. That is why now we are crying foul, because he's gone there and he's now the person that he truly is, and we don't like it. And you see, we can avoid this if we just take a minute to vet our leaders, as much as we vet our house girls, as much as we vet our employees. You know, all the people that come into our life, we even vet people we want to be friends with. You know, you have to look at someone, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves, before you decide, oh, now I can be friends with these ones. So why don't we do that when it comes to our leaders? We are okay placing our future in the hands of people we don't know, total strangers, just because alikuja na akasema very nice things that you wanted to hear. But then that is the language of politicians. They'll always tell you what you want to hear, and they'll never do it because it's not in their interests to empower you to a place where you can question them. They don't want to be questioned. And once we start questioning them and holding them accountable, then that's when they will understand that the power lies with us, because we, the people, have the power. It's not them. We give this power to them, and then we put them on a pedestal that is so high that they become a demigod, and anything said against them just takes us to war. And that needs to stop. It needs to change. Yeah. All right. Do you have a tackle of the day? My tackle of the day today goes to Kenyans who don't have water in their taps. Shida yetu ni nini? Tunafaa kukuwa na maji kwa tap. Shida yetu ni nini? Mbona hatu demandi maji? It's time that we stood up and demanded for water. Dams cannot be spilling over. People cannot be dying of floods. Lakes cannot be, like, there is water everywhere in this country except in our taps. So I think I need to borrow some notes from my sister Jerotich, Seii, and start turn on Nairobi taps.
You don't want to turn them off?
No, we don't want to turn them.
They're
already off.
So you want to turn them on?
We need them to be turned on. Like, come on, Nairobi water, turn these taps on. Na hizo water points za badi manze, they're not working. General, reconsider. Hatupati maji from hizo water points. They're not helping us. Ziko tu hapo kama flower girls, the same way your leaders are looking like.
Hatari. Chunga usiambiwe uoshe Nairobi peke yako next month.
Siwezi shindwa.
Jerotich. Wasio, nimeona umesema hapo utakuwa 2022 Speaker National Assembly.
Hey,
these guys are started.
I have to practice order.
And you also need to learn. You need to learn how to live with impunity.
I will never. That's one thing I will never learn.
Because that is where impunity thrives.
How to live with impunity. My tackle, switch off KPLC, stop these thieves. That's all I'll always say. And of course, dissolve parliament.
Sasa hata tusingoje 2022. You could be speaker next week. You never know.
Higher. Amen to that, by the way.
But anyway, the thing is, if you are going to re-engineer, then we need a new, we need new architects in place. You cannot say you want to re-engineer using the same crook who designed it. So probably we need these things. Bit by bit, we get in new people. They say, at times when you're having coffee, you introduce coffee into water. Bit by bit, you never know. As we had the dose, one day we'll have coffee. As we had the dose of sober people, one day probably we'll have a leadership that thinks about the people. And that is fine. I really appreciate that you made time for us.
Thank you for giving me
By the way, Emilio Diambo, I think she'll be coming in this week to give us a rejoinder.
Tell her I say hi. No, she's a good woman. She's a fantastic person. I think, yeah. And I don't think that she went in. For example, she'll talk about how she was supported via affirmative action and eventually was elected into power. The thing is, people belong to political parties, and when you belong to political parties, you have to toe the line of your leader. So I think when we conflate political party dynamics and the persona, then we make mistakes, because I think she's really a solid human being, an excellent professional, and she's done a lot of good. And she was one of the first people to say, "Nyo hapa tumekosea." But I still say, all those people still sitting in parliament, it doesn't matter whether they're Tanga, Kieleweke, whoever, wherever, they are all sinking in the same boat, because all of them are practicing impunity and they thrive on impunity. So we want to see those with integrity who stand up and walk away and not give us long kizungu mingi, sijui, we are waiting for this other thing to be processed. Oh no, you cannot do this. We'll have anarchy, we'll have chaos. We already have chaos and anarchy in this country because of poor leadership and lack of correct direction at the very top. And so for us as Kenyans, if we say go home, in fact, that will save us a wage bill. In fact, as of today, some of the LSK directives will stop paying salaries. Those guys have been sitting there. I hear now somebody told me on Twitter, go and take selfies outside Parliament. These guys are on recess. For all you know, they could be on recess until 2022 to avoid being dissolved. But at the end of the day, you're looking at people who have all benefited from impunity. So where are those one or two people? Even if you remember Sodom and Gomorrah, they said, where is the one good person? Show me one good person and I will save this place. And even as Kina Lot were leaving, see, the wife turned around and she turned into a pillar of salt. Show me one or two good people who are willing to stand up and be counted and not be afraid of by-elections, not be afraid of stepping down and saying, even while we're waiting for the president to figure out what this advisory is all about, which is, by the way, extremely clear, I'm stepping down because I have failed in my duty as a legislator. Yeah.
That one person, Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, kuna mambo. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. It was really a pleasure to have you. We hope to see you again. We hope to see you again very soon. Wale majamaa ambao mmekuwa the tacklers that have been tuned in all this time, thank you so much for that. Wives have been.
What? People don't know their wives and they've been in marriage for very long.
Mambo ya vetting.
Omba wa mama advice.
You talk of vetting and yet many of us don't even understand. Well, their wives having been married for too long cannot agree. The tackle from Dublin, Dubai, Prince Saad. Walisema, just an advice to Robbie Jeps is that they said, the day you'll understand why pizza is round, is in a box square, and is eaten in triangles, is the day you'll understand women. The same game with governance. Sikutelewa kwa nini pizza is round, it's in a square box and it's eaten in triangles. That's when we can have that conversation. But until then, wish you a very great day. I hope you guys are going to have a good start to the week. It's always a pleasure to have you. Tunapenda zaidi as a tackle. Kama as usual, tuma biashara yako. Unafanya biashara gani? Nambari, tutumia link, alafu pia tusaidie na picha ya kazi yako. If it's a product that you sell, then tunawapiga shout-out asubuhi. Kesho, Fast 10 gets their airtime. Until then, the tackle ends now. And bye-bye. Mungu wapende zaidi. See you.